A new Skyblock mod pack has just been released by the FTB team, and they've based it around Create Aeronautics. Ooh. In this pack, you'll start on an airship and begin your journey flying off from island to island. However, when I booted it up, I also noticed another option. You can actually select your starting island to be a void ship stranded at the bottom of the world. And you guys know me. Of course my eyes were drawn to it. Now the main quest line of this pack has you gathering resources, discovering islands, and then slaying a buffed version of the Ender Dragon fight. And so that got me thinking, could I survive being stranded in the void and then slay the Ender Dragon by day 100? So join me today as we build some crazy aeronautics contraptions. Whoa. We go void fishing and even create a void worm base that travels along the void at 23 meters per second. Oh my god, there's our old ship. Look how quick we're going. Bye. See you later. Perfect. Right, we have now started on our island. Or should I say, our ship. Now before we go ahead and assemble this thing, I quickly want to open up the quest book. This will be our guide throughout, and I've already had a look through a lot of these quests in my own time, but definitely have a look through them. You also get some XP rewards for reading them and ticking them off. But the first thing you want to do is get on the Getting Started tab, because this has all of our progression up to slaying the Ender Dragon. Now, luckily, our ship starts off with a little bonsai pot over here, which has a little sapling growing inside it, and ever so often, we will actually get some produce from it, which is really neat to start us off with a couple of these logs. And for completing that quest, we get a little bit of food as well. Nice, we're not going to be starving here. I then made a couple of chests, which then rewarded me with copper upgraded chests, so we have even more storage space. And I'll start with our first tool here, the wooden hoe. And you might be wondering why we're starting off with this. And that's because what I'm actually going to do is quickly pinch the dirt, and we've already got a sapling here. So if I come up to the main island here and plonk down my dirt and sapling, if I have my hoe in my hand, I can actually spam shift and it will grow the tree quicker. And then once that's grown, I can just harvest the tree. Now I can hold down the tilde key, the key above tab, to do ultimine, and that will mine any of the same resource in 8 blocks, so we can actually get our wood a little bit quicker, like this. I can also pop the hoe in my offhand to speed this up as well. So I'll grab just a little bit of wood before returning our dirt and saplings back to our bonsai pot. Oh, but actually I forgot something. What I do want to do is also grab some wooden shears. And if I grow that again, I'm now going to grab a bunch of these leaves here, because these will come in handy. I'll also grab a composter and plug that there, and grab ourselves a little bit of bone meal just to start off with, because there's a quest reward for doing this, and we get access to 2 hoppers and a little bit of coins, so that's quite good as well. So the next quest is the Aero scoop, but we are required to actually discover our ship first and have a little look at the resources nearby. This quest is telling us to do set home, and for doing this quest we get ourselves a waystone, which is useful, and some engineer's goggles for free. So I'll pop those in my curio slot, and I guess we'll place the waystone probably somewhere on the ship, I reckon down here, and we'll just call this home for now. And across our ship we can also observe a bunch of these different things here, and that will give us some more rewards. And if you're not familiar with Create Aeronautics, this can be really helpful. However, now we've completed these quests, we can now move on to the Aero scoop. Now the Aero scoop is at the front of your ship, and it looks a little bit like an encased fan, and this will actually generate resources if it's on a contraption or on a simulated ship and moving. So if I have a look at this little barrel behind, we've got a mechanical cloth mesh for free, and if I right click that in here, when we assemble our ship, that will actually start generating us some resources. Now that basic mesh will generate us a load of dust, stone, dirt, string, some really nice easy starter materials, and it will be our first source of dirt and stone as well. So to actually start getting some of these resources, we need to actually simulate our ship. So let's pull the lever, everything's already pre-done for us, and we are now assembled. Now because I've picked the void ship, you'll see we're actually floating right above the void, so we don't need to worry about hot air balloons or sails just yet. However, if we want to do some exploring for some islands, then we definitely need to. And if I fall off the ship, you'll notice I actually get teleported right to the top of the world, and we only take a minimal amount of fall damage when I actually land. Oh my goodness, you can see the ship down here. And when I land, I'll probably take a couple of hearts of damage. Yeah, nice. Okay, cool. But most importantly, let's place our pig down. We spawned in with this little pygmy, and if I right-click him, and then right-click him again, he starts doing the spins. So I definitely want that at the helm of the ship. That is cool. There we go. Perfect. Also, for getting that waystone, we've unlocked another waystone and some random adventurer plates. Ooh, we get some warp plates. Very cool. So definitely do your quests. You'll get a bunch of random rewards throughout your playthrough that can be really handy. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor. Have you been looking to host a server to play my mod pack, or any other mod pack for that matter? Well, let me introduce you to Berrybyte, who have very kindly sponsored this video to give you guys some great offers. They offer really competitive pricing and use Ryzen 9 CPUs, which are perfect for modded performance, as well as automatic backups and server locations from across the globe. And recently, they've dropped the Berrybyte V2 update with some really neat new features, such as being able to search for a mod pack from CurseForge or Modrinth and launch a server with that mod pack in just a couple of clicks. They've also added server saves, which means you can take a snapshot of your world so that if you ever want to switch games or try a different mod pack, you can. And that save will still be on your account so that if you want to go back to it, download it, or spin up a new server with that save, it's now easier than ever. Right now, you can use my link in the description and code BIGJIM to get $5 off, or BIGJIM20 to get 20% off of your order. Not only will you be getting yourself an awesome server, but you'll be supporting me by using my codes and links. So thank you again to Berrybyte for being a continued supporter of the channel. So without further ado, let's start moving our ship and generating some dirt and cobblestone. I can grab a bunch of our oak logs that we've already got and just throw them in here as planks, and that will start fueling up our ship. And if I want the ship to go forward, I just need to go over to the throttle lever and then pull it all the way back, and we'll now start moving off. Brilliant. Right. So, destination-wise, where should we go? I reckon the best thing that we could do right now is probably just head off in a random direction, and then we'll do a 180 in just a minute, and that'll generate us a few resources in the meantime. So whilst we're moving, exploring, and getting some of that cobblestone essence, let's have a look at what else we can do. We can get water. Interesting. So we can actually use those leaves and some of the oak logs to craft a basin like so. And if I place that down and right-click with some leaves, I can then jump on top and squirt water out of the leaves into the basin. And we might need a few of these to actually get a full bucket worth. But there we go. That is 1.25 buckets. And I guess we can just keep doing this. Now, obviously, once we get 2 buckets, we can just make an infinite source. But that is still really good to just get started. From there, we can then make the dripper, which we'll be using in just a second, and I want to grab a couple of wooden bowls. So that dripper can drip water onto blocks, and that's how we get clay, but we do need to first get dirt. So speaking of that, let's have a look at our aero scoop and see what materials we have been producing. Seems like nothing. That's a little bit strange. Whoa. Pause. Okay, so a little bit of a strange one here. This is not a bug with the pack. This is a bug with me. I originally recorded a few of these clips out of order, and I actually broke the aero scoop earlier and placed it in the wrong direction. And after doing this, I then tried to correct it, and unfortunately, we had a little mishap. Oh dear, I fully just soft-locked myself, didn't I? Whoops. Oh, no, okay, right. I can actually rebuy that aero scoop from the shop at the start. So not all is lost. Not all is lost. Okay, right. So let's also do /set home on the boat here. And then I'll also do /spawn. And we can actually go and visit the spawn. And more specifically, we can also visit the spawn shop. So the spawn looks absolutely incredible. But there's a little waystone just over here. And then I can look into the FTB Skies Express. Now this is a little train ridden by a starbuncle that will take us over to the shopping ship. And if I get off just here, there are a bunch of different villagers that we can trade with. And I think this is the early game one. This is the one that we need to actually buy the aero scoop from. Yeah, here we go. Right, cool. And luckily we've got 30 coins, so just enough to actually buy this. So I haven't fully soft-locked myself. We are absolutely fine. All right, I'm going to do /home to get back to my ship. So if I now place it like that, there we go, I can actually see the front now, and I can place the mesh in, and now we've no longer soft-locked ourselves, right, okay. Oh, so I'll pop the throttle back on. I did also spin the ship around so that we're actually going back towards the base. I got a little bit spooked. And we can just use the steering wheel to position ourselves. It's really, really cool. I love this. And if I check here now, yeah, you can see we're finally starting to generate some of these resources. Now, I'll pinch out all of these. Let's grab some of the stone essences, because if I combine 8 of them like so, I get 24 cobblestone. And that now finally gives us access to the Stone Age. So now that we've got cobblestone, we can complete this quest. We'll get a little bit extra cobble, and we get some extra mining skill. Now, if I press K, there are a bunch of different skills here. And probably the biggest one that we've got access to right now is athletics, because technically we've been doing a load of moving since we're on our airship. So you'll gain a bunch of experience here, and then you can spend those skill points on different abilities, and there's like a kind of tree system here. So I'm going to unlock a bunch of these, including sprint speed, swim speed, less damage from falling. We even get a plus 5% dodge chance. This is crazy. There is also this jump height, but I don't think I'll actually unlock it. Maybe I'll unlock one, but I'll leave the other ones. I tend to not actually like the jump height boost, but we will definitely unlock everything else, and I'm sure we're actually going to be incredibly quick now. Yeah, we are. Now, I have actually turned down my FOV settings in the accessibility settings because I reckon if I turn this on, yeah, look how far. We're like fisheye zoomed. It's crazy, like a GoPro footage. So I'll pop that back down to something like 2%, just so I can tell whether I've got it on and off. And we've also managed to get a load of dirt essence as well, and we can actually do the same with this to finally grab ourselves a little bit extra dirt. And this is where we can actually try out that dripper. We can place the dirt down like that, dripper on top like that, and then right-click our water bowl, and that should drip water directly onto this and turn it into clay. And we can just harvest that for clay balls. And I think, can we make a clay bucket? Oh, we can. Right, yeah, so we can actually make an unfired clay bucket, and that will allow us to transport water. And I can see our starter island just over here. So I'll try and get myself back to it, and then I'll just turn off the analog lever so we can park. Cool, so if I have a look at the quest book again, you'll see the next quest actually talks about 3 different pathways we can go down. Now, we can actually do any of these pathways, and chances are we'll actually do all of them. However, you'll see at the bottom here, there are these optional quests, and we can only pick one of these. These are basically boosts to that existing pathway. So, for example, if we pick this top one, allowing us to do sieving and auto-hammering, we can click this and we'll actually get a bunch of starter resources from Create. Or we can do void fishing down here, and one of the rewards is a better rod and then a bunch of growth accelerators and harvester pylons. Now, I'm honestly not too sure what to spec into first. I might as well go for this top pathway, I reckon. That way we'll get a boost to Create, and we can actually start doing a little bit more of the Create stuff. So I will press go on this, and then we'll select this pathway, although we actually have to make it into this quest here to manage that. So to get into this top one, we need to first get access to andesite, and then the way that we get that is through dripping water onto stone. And obviously stone we get from smelting up regular stone. However, to do that we need to get a furnace, and the furnace recipe has changed a little bit. We actually need to get a campfire before we do that. And so I believe what we're actually going to have to do first is this, the void fishing rod. Supposedly, what we need to do is just craft up a regular fishing rod like this, and then we just toss it into the void, and apparently we should see it come back up as a void fishing rod. Oh, there we go. I can see it rising just a little bit, so we can grab that. And if we wanted to spec into this one, we could actually get the upgraded rod, but for now I will just stick with this, and then we can actually just fish in the void. And then we have to try and catch it. So we play a little mini game to try and hit that middle bit in either the green section or the yellow section, and we'll get a load more resources. So let's try that. There we go. Oh my goodness, we get a load. And so this will give us a bunch of really nice starter resources like redstone, gold, some of our metals, as well as inferium essence, and a couple of other weird ones. Oh my goodness, what is that? A loot llama. Okay, I'll try and fly out in a different direction so we can get more of that aero scoop stuff going. And the cool thing is that we can actually void fish whilst we're on here as well. However, I think we're probably going to have to throw the rod really far forward so that it actually comes all the way back over here. We can actually still fish. Oh, interesting. Right, you can actually throw the rod and it will get stuck on your ship, and that will actually still allow you to fish. So I was throwing it out too far and it would end up like breaking off or snapping off. If I do this, it doesn't actually have a problem. And we can still actually catch all of our things. At this point, I was generating resources with the aeroscoop and then fishing at the same time so that we had a stockpile of some basic resources. Oh my goodness. Oh, there's a little bee. So I've got a load of different essences just over here, and the most important one probably is the coal essence, closely followed by the iron essence. I can use the coal essence to finally craft ourselves some coal, and that will finally give us access to a campfire, which also gives us access to a furnace so we can smelt things up. Perfect. Right, I'll plop that down. I think the first order of business is probably to smelt up some of our iron. So I will combine them to get raw iron. And I don't know whether we can double it, so for now I'm only going to pop in, let's just say 32 for now. I think that's probably a good number. And I'll craft a bunch of these furnaces because they're going to be really useful. So actually we can skip right ahead, and instead of crafting that clay bucket, we'll just use a regular bucket. And we can actually grab a bucket of water and place a waterlogged leaf block on top of the dripper. And now it's an infinite water block. So hopefully we've got a little bit more of the stone essence. Brilliant. I'll combine that all up to get ourselves some more cobblestone. And then we'll smelt a little bit of this cobblestone. So we can finally try our hands on this andesite stuff. So if I place this underneath the dripper, that should drip water onto the stone, turning it into andesite. Nice. And then apparently it will do the same again, and it will turn into andesite amalgam. Yeah, there we go. Block of andesite amalgam. And if I break this, it does take a little bit of time, but that instantly gets turned into andesite alloy, which is so nice. Such an easy recipe to grab andesite alloy. And I'll craft one of every iron tool so I can make an iron paxel, and that will be our main tool for the remainder until we get a decent upgrade. Cool, so now that that has all happened, we can now start off in this sifter stuff, and we can get all of our strip logs like that. Luckily, the ultimine also works on it, and we'll craft up a bunch of andesite alloys. Oh, it even works on that as well. That is so neat. And there we go, that is our first sifter. And I'll also grab a bed so we can set our spawn. I've got enough string here to craft up 4 wool. Luckily we only need 3, and we can get a bed like that, and just plonk that on the side, and now we can finally sleep through the evenings. Whilst I'm here, I'm also going to make a quick infinite water source, and already I'm starting to lawn base on an airship. This is not looking good. So let's talk about the sifter. We're going to need to grab ourselves any kind of hammer here. I'm going to grab the iron one because we've now got access to this. And this allows us to break down our cobblestone into different materials. If I place a cobblestone down and break it with a hammer, it turns into gravel. And then if I do it again, it turns into dirt. Do it again, turns into sand. And then lastly, I'll do it again and it turns into dust. Now I can also do this in bulk. So if I hover over my cobblestone and press K, I can compress the cobblestone down. I can actually compress it all down into gravel. Do the exact same here. So I want to grab a load of gravel. I also want to grab a load of sand as well. And I'll cook up some glass in the meantime whilst I work on some other things. So what are the other things I want to work on? Well, it's actually getting this sifter working. We get a load of really neat rewards here, but probably the most important one for now is the hand crank. I can place my sifter like this, pop a cog to the side of it, and my hand crank. And if I throw some gravel up in the top here, I can actually sift it, although we do need to grab a mesh to begin with. And this works the exact same as the meshes that we've been using in the Aero scoop, and in fact I think that's actually just finished up. So we might as well upgrade it to the next tier of mesh. Now I think we can use a gold mesh, might be a good start, as that has more durability than an iron mesh. And I think we get access to more materials. So you'll see here, if I put the gravel in the sifter, depending on the mesh that I use, I actually get more or less materials and different materials. So I definitely want to try and grab some of the gold meshes and pop them in. Perfect, that's enough gold for a golden mesh. So we can right click that in there. And then if I grab some of the gravel and then right click it on top like this, then it can sift or not. Ah, okay, interesting. So I did try to right-click, it didn't seem to work, and then I also popped it on top, and that didn't work. I believe we actually have to use a hopper, or any kind of way of pushing in items into the sifter, and that way it will work. Obviously, we still need to have the mesh on top, and now you can see it actually works. And what I'm actually going to do is place a couple of chests here, and hopper out of this as well, so all of the items actually go in here when we sift it. Let's just check that that works. It does, perfect. Now obviously that requires me using the hand crank, and we don't want that. And originally I actually pressed this button anyway, so we now have access to a bunch of different things here, but most importantly the Stirling engine and the liquid burner. Now we don't have access to any fuel, but we can get access to lava if we move down into this quest here, the tempered glass jar, and that requires us to get tempered glass and cast iron. The way that I get both of those is I need to craft up some glass panes and get my regular iron, and if I place a campfire just over here, I can right click all of my glass panes on here like so, and I completely missed that one. And within 30 seconds that will turn into tempered glass. There we go, that's a bunch of the tempered glass there. And we can also place the iron on there to get ourselves cast iron ingots. And I can then combine them both together to grab that tempered glass jar. And if I place that over a campfire, you'll see the bottom becomes hot. And placing just one or any kind of amount of cobblestone in here allows me to mix that to create ourselves lava. So when that's finally done, we'll hear a noise and we should see a little lava fuel cell pop out. Although I think that went straight into this other jar over here. Yeah, oops. Oh well, luckily I can still just bucket it out like this and grab ourselves some lava. Now, before I actually do anything with that, I do want to craft ourselves the stone cobble generator. This will allow us to grab a load of cobblestone. You'll see it generates 1 cobblestone per second. And we'll make sure we craft ourselves a drawer. And I think if I just plonk that down there like that and then a drawer on top, we'll start generating cobblestone. Perfect. We're definitely going to be needing loads of that in the future. But the question I have is that if I have this liquid burner and the Stirling engine on top like that, can I bucket lava directly into it? No. Okay, we're going to have a pump. One of the easiest pipes we have access to is the fluid pipe from the pipes mod by the looks of things. Everything else requires like steel or silicon. We could use the create pipes, but that means we still need to power them. And honestly, I just prefer a passive one, so I think this will be the one that we try. Although that does require a load of iron, we don't really have that. Although we can go to the shop and buy it. So I then made my way back over to the shopping district to go and buy some more pipe, and hopefully a wrench. Yeah, I've had a little look through. There's also the Ender IO fluid conduits, but I really just think I'm going to grab the pipes ones. They just are a little bit simpler to work with, so we'll try that. I'm also going to grab one of these wrenches from Modern Industrialization. I do hope that works with the pipes, but we'll find out very shortly. So, moment of truth, I will grab one of the cheapest tanks I could find, which is the Singularity tank. It is eating away into our iron. We've only got 2 iron left now. However, that will allow us to store our lava that we produce, and in fact, let me keep mixing up some more of this. And I'll craft myself a vertical gearbox, plonking that on the top like that. Popping our liquid burner just here, and the Stirling engine on top like that, going directly into that gearbox. A moment of truth. If I place the Singularity tank just over here, with a fluid pipe coming out of it like that, can I wrench it? I can, right, cool. And then I can place lava in there, and that finally works. And then I can place my large cog back down, and okay, for some reason I can't place that large cog going like that. That's really weird. Not to worry, I'll craft a couple of gearboxes and we can just stick them on like that. And that should, hopefully, if I wrench that, give power to our sifter. And we can actually now sift all of our gravel down. I'll grab a bunch of our cobblestone that's been generating as well. And I'll compress that up into compressed. And then we'll get that into double compressed. And then I hope that I can actually still hammer this down. And it will turn into gravel, which it will. Brilliant. I can then just hopper all of that in like so, and that will generate us a bunch of resources. That's not fully automatic, we still have to pipe all of the lava in, but we are closer than we were before, and we're now able to get a lot more iron, which is our main problem. And since we've been doing a load of work on Create, there's actually a load of quests to claim, and if I go up into this top right, I can actually select all of my rewards here, and we actually get the Welcome to Create quest, which gives us a wrench for free. I didn't need to craft the Modern Industrialization one. I feel a bit of an idiot because we lost about 10 coins with that, but oh well, it's nowhere near as much as we lost with the Aero scoop. So that is really nice, and we're making a good dent in all of our progress. Now, 2 things I'm actually interested in here is I wonder if we can actually automate our lava and our liquid burner already. If I moved my jar all the way there and actually pipe directly out of the jar rather than using this tank, that would make things a lot easier. However, we do still need to get cobblestone into the jar, and we need to find a way to automate it. And we can do that by crafting ourselves the jar automator. All we need to do is place this on top of a jar, and it will actually automatically do those recipes. And all of the stuff here doesn't look too hard to get. We just need a little bit more of that cast iron. So let's see how good our stuff's been. Oh my goodness, look at how much iron chunks we've got. This is sick. Right, let's combine those up into iron clusters, and then we can pop those in the furnace, and we'll actually smelt those all directly into iron. Cool, so that is our jar automator completed. I'll grab another cobblestone generator like that, and then we're going to pinch one of these glass jars, and we'll pop it instead of our Singularity tank just here. If I remove that powdered snow and place a campfire just there, popping the jar on top with a stone automator on the side over here, that should go into the glass, which it is. And then if I place the jar automator on top, that should auto mix, I think. Maybe it'll do it once I start pressing the mix. And then I can make sure that we're piping directly out of there into our burner. Okay, awesome. I've fixed this up now. Basically, we've got the glass jar over here with the automator on top, the Singularity tank next to it, and then we just need to pop the pipes connecting these two, and then we'll use our wrench to pull that into our liquid burner. And that should actually be our lava situation sorted, as well as our stress situation sorted, because we're now generating 4k SU. Now, this sifter only uses 1k, so we can actually have 4 sifters going at one time. So now that we've got our resource gen semi-automatic, let's actually make it automatic once and for all. And then after, I promise, I'll sort out the lawn-based thing. Honestly, I promise. So right now, we've got the 2 hoppers here, and I'm dumping in a bunch of gravel into this chest to get that all processed into the iron chunks, and all the other resources as well. But it would be good to get the hammering done automatically, and we have a bunch of different options for that. Let's start off with the iron auto hammer. Relatively simple craft. We can just make it like so. And I'll make another cobblestone generator as well, so we can actually replace this setup here. If I remove this chest filled with gravel, I should be able to place the hammer over here. I think we have to rotate it a little bit. I always struggle with the direction of the hammer, but I think I have to be on this side, and I place it like that. There's a blue side and there's a red side, and I think the red is output. So, if I place the cobble gen over here, that should go directly into the hammer, which it does, and then that goes into a sifter, I believe. Let me quickly take out all of our gravel just to check that that's actually going to work. It does. Perfect. However, we're being bottlenecked here, and I think it's actually from our cobblestone generator. So, I'm going to upgrade this into the next variant, the iron cobble generator. Luckily, that's only 4 iron ingots. There is a recipe down here that uses plates, but for some reason, I guess we can skip it a little bit. And with this, I can place that on the side, and hopefully we'll have enough cobblestone to actually keep this thing fed constantly. Great, okay, that is now working, and I think that'll probably, yeah, that's generating too much cobblestone. So now the iron auto hammer is our bottleneck. Now, luckily, we can quickly upgrade that now, because we just need a golden hammer to make that. And now it's even faster, and we're able to process resources a lot quicker. The next one up from that is the diamonds. However, I don't actually know how we can get diamonds just yet. Oh, that's an interesting one. Lightning channeling. Apparently we can have lightning hit emeralds to turn it into diamonds. Bit of an odd recipe. I think at this point it might be worth upgrading our chests to get a compacting upgrade so that we can actually change these chunks directly into clusters ready for us to process. So I'll craft up some basic to iron tier upgrades. These are really simple, just some levers and a load of iron, and I can just right click this chest and that will upgrade the storage and give us these slots here. From here, we can craft up that compacting upgrade. I should be able to pop it in here, set it to compact anything, and works in GUI as well. And that will now start compacting everything once we get a new item here. And so I think that is a load of our clusters already compacted up. Now, it won't do the tiny coal because the coal recipe is actually an 8 recipe, so it's a bit of an awkward one. But for this stuff, that is incredibly useful. And we can just pluck all of the clusters out here and start smelting them. So, I did promise you, we'll get out of our lawn base now. Although I actually kind of won't, and I'll explain why in just a second. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to keep staying on the void ship. My goal is to try and spend as much time as possible on this ship and avoiding having like an actualized real base. And so I've got a little idea on how we can do that a little bit easier. I'm crafting myself up a chisel from the chipped mod because I want access to some really nice looking blocks here. And for now, I think I'll go with these flat cobblestone tiles. They look quite good. I need another kind of accent block. I think the only one we can really afford is oak planks, and they look really ugly, so I'm not entirely sure what we'll do here. But I had a bit of a funny plan. I thought what we could do is actually build off the back here. And so I've built a huge 25 by 25 platform, and what I'm going to do is I've crafted up this iron stick. And if I plop some blocks in my offhand, and then right-click with the stick... Oh, no, that does work. Okay, cool. That's why it didn't work on aeronautics contraptions, but we can actually build out like this. There we go. A lot neater if I do this on the side here. There we go. Perfect. We now have a platform. Now it's a little bit ugly and I will pizzazz this up soon. However, I think we need a few more resources before we do this. But what I wanted to do is actually disconnect this platform and have it being towed by our contraption. Now to do that, we're going to need to see... We don't have any more string. Do I have any stored up? I have 4. Okay, well not to worry. We just need 3, so that should be okay. And what we're going to do is craft ourselves rope connectors and rope couplings. For the rope connector, we do need some iron plates, and probably the easiest way to do it would be using a forge hammer here. We can get into the create pressing and maybe some of the other methods, but for now, this is the manual way, and I think this will be a little bit easier. So I'll craft up the forge hammer like that. And luckily we can use any kind of hammer. I'm going to use the iron hammer. And if I plop this down, pop my hammer in that slot there, I can then press these down into plates. I'll grab a little bit of industrial iron, and then we can combine these two together, and we've got 1 connector, although we do need 2. So I'll craft up my rope coupling. Perfect. And then I need to go over here, and this is where things are going to get a little bit tricky. I need to actually snap off our platform, like that. Cool. And then going to break all of this line connecting to it. And then I just pop a rope connector on this side, cross the platform there, pop a rope connector here, and then I can connect them both up like that, and now I have a lawn base and an actual boat. I think that's a pretty good compromise, right guys? Oh. So I've just noticed something. I don't know whether you can see it, maybe it's not being caught on camera, but the angle of this is a little bit on the wonk. So with the airship itself, somewhere in here, I did see it earlier, I can't remember where it is, but they've added a skybound anchor. And if you place this on a Sable airship, it will keep it level, and it counteracts all the pitch and roll stuff. Now, obviously, this works on the ship, however, this doesn't. And so we're actually going to have to be careful and make sure that we counterbalance the weight of our ship. Now, we can buy these from the shop, but they're 75, they're quite expensive. So we might do that in the future, but for now, I think I'm just going to have to counterweight it. So I'm actually going to place a bunch of cobblestone on this side, and hopefully that will be enough to stop this weird counterbalance thing that we've got going on right now. Although I say that, we've not even moved an inch. To get from platform to platform, I'm also going to craft an iron handle here. And I know we have /home, but this will just make things a little bit easier. I can plop a handle over here, and if I right-click, I can obviously climb aboard, and in fact, I'm going to do the exact same for the other side as well. I've also crafted myself up a crafting table on a stick. It's just any kind of sign mixed with a crafting table, and you can pop that in your curio slot, anywhere in a charm slot. And this should allow me to set a keybind to open up our crafting table. I tend to do mine as Shift-E or Control-E, so we no longer need access to this crafting table, although I think it could still be useful if we turn it into a crafting station, because we can access our inventory from the side over here. Right now I'm in the process of setting up our lava factory as well as sorting out our hammer and sifter situation. So hopefully that won't take too long to set up. In fact, I think it will actually be an even nicer setup now as well. And I was just looking into something. Apparently, I can actually sift dirt over here. I'm actually just going to pop it into our already existing sifter. I'm going to pop a hopper and just hopper that into the sifter, and we should be able to get some saplings from this. And actually, depending on the mesh that we put in, we get a load of different things. So we've got saplings, we've got seeds. Seeds would be really good, so we need to get that cloth mesh. But the mechanical iron one will give us the saplings. So I'll get both of those meshes here, because I think they'll both be useful. And I also need a lot more string for this, so I've actually used the golden mesh that we've got over here to try and get some more. So I'm actually tugging along the platform right now, and it's all just scooped over. It's actually so funny to see this. And I didn't mention this, but we also get these random sticks. They're a little bit funky, and some of them have some really cool effects. I've not seen any particularly interesting ones as of yet. However, I like that lifesteal one, so I'm actually going to pop that in my little stick slot here, but I'm sure we'll find some even better ones soon. So I'll quickly go and place iron mesh there and use half a stack of dirt to hopefully grab some of the new saplings that we get. And luckily we've got my favourite one, spruce, but all of these are quite useful, especially the mineral ones. And now that that's done, I will pull that out and replace it with the cloth one, and we'll do all of the dirt here to hopefully get some of the seeds. Awesome. That's now done. We picked up tons, and also we got the grass seeds as well, so we can actually start growing grass. Although I don't think we can actually get passive mobs to spawn unless we unsimulate our island, so we might have to try that. But all of these are incredibly useful, so I will pinch that. Oh, geez. Right, okay. Well, apparently we're going to get into a fight because a pyromancer's just spawned in, unless he's friendly. Is he friendly? He seems friendly. Doesn't seem to sell anything useful, minus these spells here, but we don't really have any emeralds, so I wonder if we kill him, do we get anything rare from him? Let's see. Oh my goodness, mate. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you're right, mate. Oh, we do. We've got Fire Breath Scroll. We've got Epic Ink and Rare Ink. Very cool. As well as a Fire Rune. We can actually start to make his Pyromancer's garbs. Ooh. I've also thrown in a bunch of dust into here because I believe we need to get a load of this gunpowder. I was looking into making an Eye of Legend, and this will actually show us the location of a village. Checking out the quest book, supposedly that's how we get resources such as, well, more emeralds and also amethyst. So I think that should be a good shout. I also really want to get a backpack, and we got some of this cow essence. We got it from void fishing, so I'm actually going to craft that up now as well. We're going to turn that all into leather, and in fact, we're going to do that again. Backpacks are obviously insanely useful, so I will get one of those, and we'll upgrade it to the highest tier we can actually afford, which will probably be the gold tier, and that gives us a load more storage space for all of our stuff. And I'll also set up another sifter here, but we're actually going to do something a little bit different. We're going to have the sifter next to it like that, but we're actually going to have 2 auto hammers, so that will turn it into gravel. The second one will then turn it into dirt, and in fact, actually, I'm lying. I need a third one. I want to turn it into sand. There we go. We'll pop that just there, and then I'll pop my cobblestone generator at the back here, and that'll finally crush that all up into sand, which should be going directly into my sifter. I just need to add a gold mesh. And now we'll be getting a bunch of different resources as well. And then like before, we'll have the same chest set up, and eventually I'll pop some compacting upgrades in here as well. I'm going to pop back to the shop here because we've actually got 76 coins in our bank account. And I've been debating something. I've been debating whether we buy the honey glue for 15 coins and then disassemble and reassemble our island, which I think could be a shout, or we buy the skybound anchor and actually just force it to be flat. You know what, screw it, let's do the honey glue, it's a little bit cheaper. I will buy that, and I'm going to craft up the physics assembler. We've already got one at the front of our base, but I'm going to craft up a separate one for this island. And what I'm going to need to do is actually glue this entire thing together. Shouldn't be too difficult. I think we just need to encompass the entire thing like that, and then I'm going to pillar up quickly. Oh, that's so awkward. I have to pillar up at an angle. This is so weird. And then once we've done that, we can actually use the control and mouse wheel to extend the selection upwards like this. I want the whole base covered like that. And I also want to make sure that I've got the edges in, which I do. Right, okay, that's looking pretty good. And then I guess I get my physics assembler, and we'll just downshift it like that. And there we go. I mean, our ship just pinged off, but it's still attached, so that's good. And now, temporarily, this is now a real object. Now, certain things might break. In fact, I've accidentally duplicated my gold mesh, I think. Both of them. Ooh. Now, I could keep them, but I am just going to throw them away. And I've done this for a little bit of a strange reason. I actually want to get some passive mobs spawning on this island. And because our simulated contraptions don't allow for that, we actually need to have this as a realised thing. And so I'm actually going to get a load of dirt here. We've also got a load of our grass seeds as well. So I'm going to plonk down a little island for this. And then sprinkle in some grass seeds, and hopefully that should just grow. Let's get into a little bit of tech, because right now I definitely need a furnace or something to actually get our clusters into resources we can use. Now for that one specifically, I want to use an encased fan. So I'll chop up a bunch of my stuff into plates and then into fans. I've placed down 2 water wheels here, and what I'm going to do is place down some encased chain drive like that, with encased fans here as well, and a vertical gearbox connecting the two like that. And I just want to place some water just to test which direction this will spin. Oops, I need to move these up by a block because they're currently too low. There we go, all sorted. And then I'll place another vertical box there. Cool, that is now blowing out, which is exactly what we want. And right now we want 2 fans, and then I'll probably have the bulk haunting one for the last fan, but we need to get soul sand for that. So what I'll do is grab a lava bucket, a water bucket, as well as a leaf that we've already made before. And just to have something in the middle of that spot, I might as well just use a campfire for now. So let me box this all up just over here. I'll pop a campfire in the middle so we don't end up making obsidian. I'll chuck an oak leaf here with a water bucket, so now we're getting the washing as well. And then lastly, I'll come over to my singularity tank and pinch a lava bucket, and we'll place that just there, but I don't want that to float, so I'm going to place a stone pressure plate, and that is now all sorted. I'll grab a bunch of clusters from over here, just literally pinching every single one like that, and I'll just toss it into this stream here, and that should hopefully cook these all up into the right materials. At this point, I wanted to get myself a jetpack. Now, I kind of had a small unwritten rule for myself that I didn't want to use the jetpack to access the village islands. I actually wanted to use Create and maybe make some kind of helicopter for this. But getting around the island and actually being able to build without being impeded was a massive bonus, and so I decided I would try to go down that line. I took a look into starting Orotech. The problem is a lot of the stuff we required used steel, so that left me with Mechanism or Ender IO. However, Mechanism required us getting osmium, which didn't seem possible unless we got a diamond mesh. So it looked like I was going to start Ender IO, but then something else happened. Ender IO looks possible. We do need obsidian though. Although, hold on. I've just seen a wandering trader. He's actually sorted us right out with this. Emeralds to diamonds. Oh, that's actually so good. Right, okay. I need to quickly grab... In fact, are they in my backpack? They are, yes, right. I'm going to convert literally all of them into diamonds. Oh, that's fantastic. For his incredible servitude, I am just going to quickly remove him from existence. And your pets too. So completely ignore me. What we're actually going to do is pinch the gold mesh out of the sieve there and turn it directly into a diamond mesh. And that way, we should finally be getting some osmium chunks as well. Oh, I've just seen them coming in. And diamond chunks. Oh, that's so good. I'm just smelting up a little bit of that osmium to get ourselves started. And now we can actually get that metallurgic infuser. Perfect, nice. So that will actually allow us to get steel. Now to power this, I am going to use the industrial alternator from Create Gadgets and Gizmos, and this allows us to turn create rotation into FE. We just need to grab ourselves some stripped logs here, and then right click them with copper, and that will give us loads of copper casing. And from there, we can now craft the alternator. Awesome. Now I do want to see, can we use this without getting stressed? In fact, let's have a quick look. Oh, the texture for this is sick. I'll pop it on the back of this shaft here. Yeah, it's overstressed, but that should be okay because I think we can downshift it with some large cogs. If I place a small cog there with a big cog there, can we now power this? No. Okay. So I'll just repeat that. I will pop a regular cogwheel there. I'm going to encase this one. No, I'm not. Apparently we can't encase with copper. That's interesting. No worries. I've got some andesite casing. I'm going to encase it like that. Then we will pop a large one there. And that will slow it down even further. Can we now do it? No. Okay. Right. Shrunk that down so much here, but finally, at 4 RPM, we can get 78 FE per tick, which is actually surprisingly really good. I'm hoping that if I just place the infuser next to it, it will get that. It does. Perfect. We'll obviously need to use some proper cabling, but that will do for now. And to get our first bit of steel, we need to place in, I think it's 1 coal, and then pop in an iron ingot. That will then turn into enriched iron. Then we need to place 1 coal in again, and then pop that enriched iron in, and that will eventually turn into steel dust. So I'm going to do that with 24 iron so we can get a little bit of a stockpile going of the steel. That is all of our steel finally processed so we can actually get a little bit deeper into mechanism. Okay, so I want to do 2 things here. First of all, I want to craft up an enrichment chamber. That requires us using 4 of our steel and an osmium to make steel casing. And we also need these basic control circuits. This is just 2 redstone and 1 osmium ingot to make that. But we're actually running really low on redstone. The only way we get it is through dust. And we don't have much. I'm wondering if it's time for another sidetrack. The third pathway we didn't actually check out, but it's this path of crystalmancy, also known as geode creation. Now, first of all, we need to craft this void crystal catalyst. That is just a grain of infinity and cobblestone. We have already got the grains of infinity essence from our Aero scoop, so I'll grab a few of these guys. We'll then combine that to get the void catalyst. And then, if I have a look at the recipes, we can actually interact with this block with a bunch of different dyes in order to get different kinds of budding geodes. The one that we're obviously looking for is the redstone one, so we can just right-click it with red dye. Now, not all of the geodes are made by this method. For example, the diamond geode actually is crafted through pouring molten diamond onto this catalyst, and that's how you get that one. If I had to guess, probably the same for the osmium one. Oh, well, that's a crazy recipe. Although you can also do the regular molten osmium method here as well. So, red dye. How do we get red dye? Well, I think we got some beetroot seeds earlier. And our grass farm hasn't seemed to have spawned any passive mobs. So what I'm actually going to do is probably turn this into a small little farm area. And I'll grow a couple of these beetroots. Now again, we can still do the squat grow thing, and that still works. So I'm going to grab 2 of these beetroots and combine them to make red dye. For now, I'm going to plonk that just on this block here. So I'll place the void catalyst and then right click it with the red dye to turn it into the geode that we want. Now, can I squat grow the geode? That's the question. Oh, we can. Okay, sick. So we can actually get ourselves some redstone this way. So this is really neat. All we need to do is squat grow to get these to grow. And you can actually ultimine and right click, and that will actually harvest these geodes. From there, you just take these shards, place them in the blasting setup, and that will turn it into redstone. So I'm just going to keep doing that, and hopefully we'll end up with our basic control circuits. Oh, they've already finished. Whoops. In that case, I will make my enrichment chamber right now, and I'll also make a basic tier installer. I'm going to make another one in just a minute, but if I place this down underneath the alternator, that should now receive some power. And beforehand, we were using 1 coal to make 1 enriched iron, but if we actually enrich the coal and turn it into enriched carbon like that, that will actually produce 8. So it's 8 times more effective if we do that. So if I throw in 8 coal, that basically acts like a stack of coal in the metallurgic infuser. If I open up the metallurgic infuser, I only have 1 slot to place my items. But if I right click it with the tier installer, it turns into a factory, and we now have 3 slots to place our items. I can also press this auto sort button, so that when I throw in all my iron, it will auto sort it accordingly. And that way we can add all of our enriched carbon and we can finally be making a little bit more steel and make it a lot quicker. Okay, so we've got tons of steel, tons of different materials here. And I think we should be able, or should be good to go, for making either the alloy smelter or the foundry. I might actually just go with the alloy smelter, because I think upgrading it will be a lot easier than the Orotech method. Plus, this also gives us access to, I believe, we can get into brass here. And that would mean we can actually get a rotational controller, meaning we don't have to do this crazy cog spam over here. But before that, I want to store our energy in something, and so I'm going to make these energy tablets here. These actually use infused alloy, which is just redstone mixed with copper in the metallurgic infuser. And then we can craft all of that together to finally make ourselves an energy cube. We also need some cable to move that energy around, and that's really simple. That's just steel and redstone. And so now I can actually move my machines around a little bit. I'm going to place the cube right there, and that will take in power. And we're going to actually export power from the bottom here and set that to output mode. And then we can have our infusing factory and our enrichment chamber and whatever machines around here as well. So then comes the alloy smelter. We need loads of furnaces. We need some iron gears. These are a little bit funky, but luckily not hard at all. So we'll grab a couple of them. And then we need a void chassis. And finally, alloy smelter sorted. Now, to actually use this, we need to grab a capacitor. This basic capacitor over here, which will require some gold nuggets. And then that is the basic capacitor. I'm a little bit scared to use more of our grains of infinity. I don't really know how many we've got left. We do get them from our aero scoop, but the problem is I've not been using the aero scoop nearly as much as I should be, and so we have a limited supply of these guys. But that's fine. Let's stick our alloy smelter just here. We place our capacitor in this slot here, or you can just shift click it in. That's finally getting a little bit of power, and I'll set this to alloy mode, and we can start to get all the things we need for this battery. So one of them is electrum. So that's just silver and gold. That'll combine to electrum. And hold on, I made another fatal error. We don't currently have access to amethyst because we haven't been to a village. However, there's the jetpack from Mechanism that I have used before, and I actually really like this jetpack. It's even cheaper than the jetpack that we were looking at before. The only problem is you don't power it with electricity, you power it through hydrogen, and so you need to make the electrolytic separator, which needs dust forms of all of these materials, and so we need to get ourselves a crusher. Crusher has been acquired, and I'm also going to use a basic tier installer on it as well, just to speed it up a little bit. And now that we've got all of our dusts, we can now craft that electric core, and finally the electrolytic separator. Now we do need a way to get water into this, and to all the modded veterans, you know exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be crafting a sink from cooking for blockheads. This requires 3 iron and a load of terracotta. The way I've got the terracotta is through clay, which we get from washing sand. So I'll craft up a sink, and a sink is basically just filled with water. It's basically an infinite water source, but as a block, and you can just throw water or take as much water as you like from it. But it also has the neat effect of being able to be pumped out of. So I'm going to place the separator just here. I'm going to place the sink over here, and I'm going to configure the sides so that we're actually going to be inputting fluids from the right, although I don't think we can actually take directly from the right. We might actually need to pipe in. And technically, I'm going to remove this infinite water source because the sink acts like one. So what I'm going to do now is grab a fluid pipe, pop the sink behind it like that, and then just wrench, and that will then put the water inside the separator. So we're generating hydrogen and oxygen. Now I'm going to dump excess of the oxygen. So when it gets to the full amount, it's not going to stop the machine from going. It's just going to keep going and just dump whatever's excess in this tank. But most importantly, we're now generating all the hydrogen that we need. And so I think that is everything. That is the jetpack itself crafted. Now to fuel this thing up, we need to go over to our electrolytic separator, and then we can literally just grab it and left click or right click that hydrogen. Oh no, maybe we can't. You used to be able to do that. Oh no, you just have to pop it in this slot here. That's fair enough. So we'll let that fill up with a bunch of hydrogen so we can have a bit of flight. Now, I've been looking into zinc for a little minute because I wanted to get our hands on brass. The problem is, I noticed that our sifters haven't actually been producing any zinc at all. And if I look at the recipe for zinc chunks, I can't actually see anything here, meaning I don't know whether this is like an oversight or whether we're supposed to get it from a different means. If I look at the budding zinc geode, it is possible we can use molten zinc and actually create ourselves a zinc geode. Other than that, I'm not really too sure what we're supposed to do. Now, I think I did actually get some of the zinc essence when we were doing void fishing, so if we can get enough of that, we should be good. Yeah, here we go. We've got 11 zinc essence, which only produces us 4 zinc. So we're going to have to do a little bit of void fishing and probably get ourselves a zinc geode. Ooh, our jetpack is finally finished charging. Check that out. And I believe, yeah, this just works off the bat. That is so nice. Now, I'm not going to use this to fly over to a villager island. I want to mainly just use this for getting around and actually building. Plus, there's a vector mode, which allows us to actually fly in the direction that we're facing, which means that we can actually move a lot quicker around our build here, which is super neat. Now, I've also added a second Stirling engine just here because we're actually producing too much lava, and I thought we need a little bit more energy anyway. So I've got both of these now running, and supposedly I can just attach a encased chain drive to link both of these up. Now, they're running at the same speed and the same direction, so we should just be able to hook them back up to our sifter setup, and now we've got a little bit more SU if we wanted to extend or increase the speed of this. Or, what I'm actually going to do is add another sifter, and this time we're actually going to use dust for this. So I'm actually going to place 4 of these hammers with a cobble gen at the back, and then a hopper to finish that off, as well as popping our compacting upgrade in there, like so. So we should be generating a load of new resources as well from this. Right, I am done with dilly-dallying. We have put off the village for too long now. Let's actually begin it. So let's sort out this Eye of Legend. Now, luckily, the Ender Pearls are probably one of the easiest things that we can get from here because we actually got a load of this Enderman Essence from fishing earlier. So I will add a bit of that. We obviously need some golden apples. The apples come from the bonsai pot. And then 2 grains of infinity. That is all good. As for item exploding, I have a TNT that I prepared earlier. And for lighting this thing, we just need a flint and steel, which surprisingly, I didn't have any flint for, but luckily we can just craft it up. And because this thing is not actually simulated, I have claimed the chunks around, and I don't believe that we'll get any explosion damaging the local area, but we will find out. If that's the case, I'm going to place it right in the center over here. I think I just throw everything at it like that, and then light it, and that should just work. Let's see. It did, and there we go. That is the Eye of Legend. So supposedly, I can right-click this, and it will find the location of a village. So that is that direction over there. This doesn't seem to actually use any durability, it just has a cooldown, so that's really handy. So, my guess is if I just follow this along and create a waypoint here, call it village ? Now I can point towards that direction and hopefully we'll find it on the way to that waypoint. So, let's move all of our stuff over. I'm going to quickly just make sure that this whole thing is honey glued so that no parts of our structure seem to fall off. I think we'll be alright. So, everything looks good to go in terms of gluing. Let's quickly do a backup, because the last thing I want is for a crash or for something to go wrong. And let's just check that everything has a connection to the ground. For example, this redstone geobud, it doesn't really. What I mean by that is, let's say I build up 2 blocks and then remove this block, the support's gone and it becomes its own physics object. And so, that geo here, technically that bottom bud would actually work. However, I want to place a block just there, just to make sure we don't have any problems. The same with our chutes just here, and I know it probably won't matter, but I'm going to place some blocks under these supports here, just to make sure as well. So, moment of truth, let's do it. I think it's real. I don't think we had any problems, and everything still seems to be working. So let's grab some of our coal, pop it in the fueling port just here. That will take it, and then we can start making haste towards that village waypoint over here. And hopefully, our island has all come along with us with no problems whatsoever. Yeah, that's looking pretty good to me. But of course, we're going to be incredibly slow now because we are tugging a huge weight on the back. It would be good to try and expand these propellers, but I'm not entirely sure we can do that with what we've currently got. Now, I'm actually using the gear shifts down here. I'll put some levers on there, and that will actually allow you to turn faster. I'm not entirely sure if it's intended or not, but that looks now level towards that village to me. So now we are moving a little bit better in that direction. Now, I do hope you don't suffer from motion sickness because we're about to still be building whilst we are moving towards the village. because I want to get started on that zinc G-ore. And to do that, we need to get molten zinc and pour it over the void crystal. But to do that, we need to get into productive metalworks. Now, there's a whole guide here in the Generating Resources quest guide, which shows you everything that you're going to need for the foundry, which is the main way of actually melting down the stuff. So I'm actually going to pin that quest and hopefully start building things from that. And one of the biggest resources we're going to need is the clay and sand. Now, sand we've obviously got tons of, but clay we don't. However, we can always wash the sand that we've got to make clay. Although I say that, I'm slightly concerned that because of the angle, this might just fall down. Well, there's only one way to try that out, so let's just throw that there. I think that's still washing it. This is so scuffed. Yeah, it does wash it. We're actually getting clay, even though it's at a silly angle. I love aeronautics, man. This is such a goofy mod. So we'll cook up loads of that fire clay, and then we have to smelt that up as well. So I'll pop that in this chest, which will shoot that down into the lava stream, which will blow that into creating the fire brick. So that is the black foundry controller crafted. We need a foundry drain, as well as a foundry tank, and then some liquid heating coils. Specifically, we need 9 of them, which is going to need quite a lot of buckets. I made a few more fire bricks, and what I also need is to grab a basin, a casting table, and then 2 foundry taps, and then the rest of this fire brick's actually going to be used into making fire brick bricks. And so let's actually set this thing up. I have knocked out a little 3x3 space just over here, although I'm actually going to want to move this over by 1 block. I'm then going to place any kind of block here and pop the foundry controller just there, with a foundry tank next to it, a foundry drain to the left hand side of it, with our foundry taps on both sides of it. We'll have a casting basin on one side and then a casting table on the other. I'm then going to go around the end ring over here and place the rest of these blocks to get that first layer in. And luckily we can also cut out the corners so we can save on a little bit of our resources. And then we just need to build it upwards for however many bricks we actually can afford to do this with. So that's our starter foundry, and obviously it's still on the wonk. I'm going to pour some buckets of lava into that foundry tank over here, and that will actually fuel up our foundry. And then all I need to do is place in our raw zinc directly into the foundry, and that will actually melt down into 2 ingots. And I believe to do this we need 1 block. Pop our raw zinc into the foundry like that, just by right-clicking the foundry controller and dropping it in. And then I'll place my void catalyst crystal into the casting basin, and once that's fully melted up, just like that, we can then right-click the tap and it will pour into the casting basin. That will then cool down, and we should end up with our budding zinc geode. Perfect. Right, I'll take that back. Oh, and another pyromancer spawned, so you know what that means. We will harvest him for his loot. Oh my goodness. He's got hands, but I have harder hands. That did not sound as cool as I wanted it to. And then I will go 1, 2, we'll place the block just on here, pop the hoe in the offhand, and now we should have a renewable way of actually getting ourselves zinc. And surprisingly, this one does actually work on an airship. I didn't think it did, so maybe there's been an update that I've done recently and it now works. To make my life easier with harvesting these geodes, I am going to grab myself a magnet from the Simple Magnets mod. I think that should be okay. Yeah, it just requires grains of infinity. So we'll do that. We might even be able to upgrade it. No, we won't, because we need Knife Ender. That's fine. We'll take this. We will right-click it to turn it on. We should be able to pop that in a charm slot like that. And now we'll actually suck up items in a larger radius. So when I break that, it goes straight into my inventory. So we seem to have 1,000-ish blocks to go until my waypoint. I did discover some sort of bunch of islands up around here, but I think it's probably going to be a little bit further for this village. Either way, we will find out. I'm going to go and harvest a bunch more of these geodes, and I'll see you in a sec. We're still on our way. I did change the direct... Oh, I thought that was it then. It's a cool little airship, but that is definitely not what we're looking for. Although it would be cool to maybe convert that at some point. Okay, I was looking into getting ourselves some netherrack, or more specifically things like nether quartz. And there is a recipe. We can actually use an extractor from Zycraft to pull out netherrack and generate it through having lava, and then gravel. And that's pretty easy, and I think we can actually get the extractor now. We've got most of that. We do need to find a way of getting kivy. That might be a little bit confusing, although, yeah, by the looks of it, we can also, once we've got 1 from this recipe, we can actually extract more. So that's not too bad. The fluid port, that's really easy. That's just aluminium nuggets and a bucket. The pointed dripstone, we've got stone essence and we've got water essence, both of which came from our void fishing. So we can get loads of this, and let's craft ourselves up another dripper. And all we need to do is place a sort of basin shape here, like that. And then hopefully if I just place the dripper like that and grab a bucket of lava from our singularity tank over here, if I place that over it like so, will that now convert one of these void crystal blocks? That is the question. Doesn't look like it. Okay. Do I just need to right click the bucket on the dripper? Ooh, okay, right, so that's how we do it. And that is how we get our first block of kivy. So I'm going to grab quite a few of these because we need to make one extractor to then extract kivy itself. I think we need 3 in total. I've accidentally crafted an extra one there, but that should be fine. And I think we'll be good. Oh, hold on. I've just seen it on the map. This is the village right above us. Oh my goodness. Right, okay, hold on. Turn the lever off. This is sick. This is it. Let's sort out the kivy first before we do that, because I'm going to want to extract in the meantime. We'll grab some of these item ports, and that is our first extractor. And then I'm just going to disassemble our ship for now, because I like to be actually in the real world and also not on a constant wonk. And for now, let's just lawn base and pop our kivy in the center here. Lava, water, extractor there, and then we can place a chest on top, and that will generate us kivy. Awesome. Although I'm actually going to swap this out with a spruce straw that we got from one of our quest rewards, because I believe that can hold a little bit more. Yeah, 2,000, that should be good. And then I can use the kivy that we're generating now to make even more of those extractors. And now we can set up that gravel netherrack one that I saw a minute ago. There we go. Place that there. We'll use another drawer like that. We'll have both of them facing upwards because it's a little bit nicer. And now we're also getting netherrack. I've set up another little mechanical sieve over here. And I'm actually going to grab all of the netherrack that we've been producing. We should just be able to do the same thing as we've done before, where we compress it and then we simply break it. That will give us crushed netherrack. And then I'll pop a hopper on here and hopper a bunch of that over into here, meaning hopefully we get some nice resources from that netherrack. And I think this is also how we get blaze powder for our blaze rods, because we can actually melt down blaze powder directly in our foundry into molten blaze, and then also pop that or cast it into a rod cast producing blaze rods, so that we can get that next tier of mesh. But right now I'm interested in that atomic reconstructor, so I'm only going to grab 4 of these quartz chunks, turning that into a quartz cluster, and then I'll pop that in my blasting setup, which should produce a singular little bit of quartz. Now obviously that isn't a lot, but we really only need the 1 for that black quartz right now, because there's an easier way to get quartz that I'll show in just a minute. So let's see this in-world transformation. I'll turn off my magnet, we'll throw quartz and grains of infinity. Hopefully they'll combine to give us the black quartz. Nice. We'll get that casing, we'll get the atomic reconstructor, and I also want to grab a redstone torch and a wooden pressure plate. If I place the atomic reconstructor down here, you'll see it's actually a little laser setup, and it's going to get charged and it will keep on shooting out until we right click it with a redstone torch, and right now I'm going to set it on pulse. Then I'm going to place a pressure plate in front of it, so that now whenever we throw items onto it, it will then shoot them with the laser. And what do I want? Well, I showed it off earlier. I want to shoot some sand and make soul sand. So I'll just grab that one, we'll chuck it on there. That's our first bit of soul sand sorted. And with that, what I'm going to do is create a campfire, a soul campfire, using it. And we'll actually replace our smoking setup just over here with that campfire there, which will now do bulk haunting. Now haunting is super nifty because we get access to blackstone, which is a nice building block. We get access to fungus, even nether brick, prismarine. But one of the most important conversions is that sand into soul sand, because it's a lot cheaper than the atomic reconstructor method over here. So I've just converted a bunch of cobblestone into sand. I'm going to turn off my magnet here and drop them all into that soul sand bulk haunting setup. And then with that soul sand, I'm actually going to throw that directly into our washing setup, and we should get a load of nether quartz from that. Yeah, check that out. Just from a couple of stacks of it, we've already got more than a few stacks of nether quartz. Now, I didn't need that much quartz, however, we do have absolutely tons. And one of the things that I wanted to craft with that and the redstone combined is some rose quartz. I can then grab some paper, mix that with a sand, and we get some sandpaper, and I can actually sand down my rose quartz into polished rose quartz. Combining that with iron plates, we get electron tubes, and now we get access to all of the fun later game stuff from Create. One of the most important things here is a deployer, because that allows us to finally do some of the sequenced recipe stuff. But there are tons of really useful things that we can make, such as the mechanical crafter. We can get to crushing, different things like that. And drive-by-wire is in this. I'll have to show off drive-by-wire because that is quite a cool mod. But in the meantime, I'm going to grab myself a deployer. I'll also craft myself a depot. And we can finally start making stuff for the helicopter so that we can fly up to this village over here. So now comes the part where we build a helicopter to actually fly. I made some brass casings just using a little brass ingot on some stripped oak logs. And I did that because I want to grab myself an analog transmission. In fact, we're actually going to grab two. And I'm going to make a helicopter that is very similar to something that I've been working on in one of my first Create Aeronautics videos. So if you want to have a look at the basics of how you actually make a Create helicopter, definitely check out that video. It is super helpful. Now, to keep the helicopter stable, we need to use the gyroscopic propeller bearing. And to do that, we need to get the actual mechanism itself, which is why we crafted the deployer earlier. We need to have some cogwheels, some shafts, and some brass nuggets, and do this process with an iron plate 5 times to have a 90% chance of this mechanism. Now, luckily, we don't have to make a full setup for this, so what I'm actually going to do is just place the iron plate here and just scroll through each one of these items for about 5 times until the whole recipe is now completed. And there we go. We now have the gyroscopic mechanism. So that's our gyroscopic propeller bearing completed, and now we need to get some portable engines. Although saying that only produces 2000 SU, and it's quite an advanced recipe. We have to get this engine assembly. I'm wondering if we go down that liquid burner route, although I think there is actually a solid burner. Yeah, there is. The solid burner from Propulsion Simulated. Let's have a look if that one produces a bit more. I'll just plop the burner down like that, plop the Stirling engine on top, and then we'll throw in some coal, and that should be producing, hopefully, yeah, 4,000, so that's double. That's basically 2 portable engines. We'll definitely be using that one then. Okay, so let's start off with the basics. We're going to need the solid burner here with a Stirling engine pointing back like that. I'm going to use a bunch of shafts to pull this power along, although what I'm going to do is snap off this one here and actually have 2 vertical gearboxes going like that. I'm also going to have another vertical gearbox actually replacing this one as well, because I want to grab an analog transmission and put it facing upwards like this, with a cog touching there, and then the propeller bearing on top like that. Now, if I give this some charcoal, you should see this spinning, which it is. And if I give this an analog lever, it will actually slow down depending on the higher redstone signal we give it, so we can control the amount of lift we actually give this thing. Now, I can take back that lever and replace that with a redstone link here tuned to an analog lever signal like that, and place a redstone link here and actually control this from afar. You can see there it's actually affecting the speeds of that propeller, and we can actually slow it down from the cockpit. From here, I'm going to control the forward and backward movement, and we're going to use a directional gear shift for this. You'll see it's not actually getting that shaft signal, despite the fact that it's spinning behind, and that's because we need to power it on either one of these sides, and that will actually determine which way this goes. So if I do it this way, you'll see it's going clockwise, or sorry, anti-clockwise, and if I do it this way, it's now going clockwise. And again, we can actually just place redstone links on both of these, and I'll set this frequency here, the red channel, to the propeller, and the blue channel here to propeller, so that they are now on opposite sides, and I will shift right click to make sure these are on receive mode. From then, we can just whack a propeller on the back, and to test that that's working, I'm going to grab a linked controller. You can use a typewriter or maybe even the drive-by-wire, but for now I'll use this because it's significantly cheaper. What I'm going to do is right click this receiver and bind it to W, and I'm going to right click it, so now I can actually control it. Now that is going the wrong way, so I can either shift right click and control the frequency here instead, and now I've actually fixed it, or I can just right click it again and rebind it to the S key and W key. As for the rotation on the back, that should be really simple. We've got a directional gear shift here going into a gearbox, and then on the back we've got a propeller like this with a redstone link on either side controlling whether we're going left or right. And I need to figure out a nice block for that. We'll probably just use this blast furnace here. So let's test this. I will bind this to the D key. That is perfect. And then I will bind this one to the A key. And now all is working. I pizzazzed it up a little bit, and I've also made it so that it's front heavy by putting some heavier blocks here, like cobblestone. You see it's 2 kilograms versus the 0.5 of oak planks. I'll get the contraption diagram out and just check that the thrust is happening in this line. But for now, I'm going to take out this middle block and place a seat. And then we're also going to add that redstone link for controlling this one here, the speed of our propellers, and sort of pop that just there. And we can use a throttle lever, which is the exact same as an analog lever. However, it has a nice GUI so that we can actually control it like that. I'll encase this up quickly using some andesite casing. And now we need to focus on the most important bit, the propeller itself. Now, I think we are quite out of string. I'm hoping I've got a little bit left in the Aero scoop. Oh, we do. Perfect. Right, we've got loads. That's really nice. So, what I'm going to do with this is actually craft ourselves up a bunch of windmill sails. Now, that requires wool specifically, and we can get wool by combining a bunch of that string together like that. Although I would like to get some proper wool farm later on. So let's craft up a bunch of sails. I'll go for 32 for now, and I'm going to grab a little bit of that white wool as well. So what I'm going to do is go on the top, place down a wool block like this. We're going to grab some windmill sails, and we're actually going to come out, I think, probably about 4 blocks on each side. And that should be done. Perfect. Oh, and finally, we actually got some passive mobs to spawn. Oh my goodness, it's day 32, and we've only just got our first mobs. Slightly jarring that it wasn't a sheep, because I actually really wanted a sheep, but oh well. So that's our helicopter actually built. I do want to add some added stability, and the way that you can do that is by crafting symmetric sails here. Windmill sails are one-sided, and so they'll only provide thrust in one direction. However, if we use the symmetric sails, they're actually double-sided and provide a lot more stability to our contraption. So what I'm going to do with these is actually just use them on the side here to make this a little bit more stable, and we might as well chuck some on the back here with our rotor so that that's also stable as well. So without further ado, let's fuel up our helicopter. Like that, although I seem to only be able to add 8 in there at a time. That's a little bit annoying. We might add a hopper to this. I'll also need to glue up the contraption, which should be relatively easy, although I currently am inside an already existing glue thing, but I don't think that will cause any problems. Oh no, hold on, it definitely will. I'm just realising because it's literally attached to the bottom here. In fact, what I'm going to have to do is remove this bottom layer for now, and then we'll just add it in post. Just because this thing is actually technically connected to the bottom platform, and we really don't want that, so I think that should be okay now. And we don't need to glue any further, because these windmill sails are actually attached to other windmill sails, so I think that should be okay. Let's grab our assembler, and just see if this thing assembles properly. It does. Nice. Now, right now it says it's overstressed. Well, luckily, we've got this engine here. I'm going to drop it down to 128. Still says overstressed, maybe 64. Okay, whoa, 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 whoa. And unfortunately, the weight distribution was causing us some major problems. After a load of trial and error, and actually referencing the Create Helicopter video that I'd actually made, I was finally able to get this thing off the ground and working a treat. Okay, so I finally got this thing working. I've used some iron blocks at the front here because they are super heavy, 4 kilos, as opposed to cobblestone, which is 2. So they're twice as heavy, and if I have a look at the contraption diagram, we are now front-facing, but mostly all of the thrust is in line with the propeller. So when I get in and pull the analog strength up, I'm going to do it slowly so we don't end up just tipping back, we should now have liftoff. And it will hover out depending on what our analog strength is. So I'm going to try and get this to somewhat max out. I don't know how high we can actually get this thing going, although we are now reaching the levels of the village. This is sick. So I'm going to pilot it slowly towards this village here and lower our analog strength to get us to land. I think right on top of this greenhouse looks perfect. Right, let's pull that up. So we've turned off the thrusters. Okay, maybe not, maybe not, maybe not. Yeah, it's really inconvenient. These villagers really should have built a nice helicopter landing pad for it. Oh, what's that down there? Oh, perfect. Well, it's not exactly a helicopter landing pad, but it's a perfect place to land. Minus the fact that we... Oh, no, I hope we're not stuck now. Oh, well, right, let's go and explore this village a little bit. First of all, one of the most important things we came here for, amethyst. That is fantastic. As well as, I did just see down here a bunch of food crates of things that I don't think we've got yet. We have got potatoes because I've been eating them. However, I don't think we've got onions. We certainly don't have carrots. It's very thoughtful of them to just leave these things lying around. I wonder if there's any good loot in these chests as well. Ooh, okay. Ooh, and one of our first apothic items. We can actually see what Apotheosis is going to do for us in this playthrough. I think it might even be the updated version, which I haven't yet played with. Now, Apotheosis adds loot of different rarities, and so, for example, this one is actually a common bit of loot. So it has extra armor pierce, extra luck, and on hit inflicts grievous wounds. Very cool. Wait, what? I just found my head in a chest. Thank you, Create Gadgets and Gizmos. What does this fella think he's looking at? He's giving me the evils, man. I don't like this guy. Oh, and a free enchanting table. Don't mind if I do. As well as a ton of bookshelves. Yes, please. Thank you. Since I'm here, I'm also going to pinch a couple of the villagers. We've got the Easy Villagers mod, so you can shift right click to grab villagers and pop them in your inventory. And I definitely want a couple of these guys. Ooh, and something that I'm really excited for. I've just found flax, and we got some flax seeds as well. Flax can be turned directly into string if we mill it or crush it. So that might be a little bit of a better source than the Aero scoop. Either way, that's been brilliant. We've got everything that we came here for. Let's go and drive off. Perfect. Managed to get myself out of that situation. Nice. Although, I do see that osprey thingy in the distance, and I definitely want to see if I can fly to that and see what's inside there as well. And that might be a little bit too high for us because there's a certain level where if I put my analog strength too high, even my basic propellers will actually start kicking out. For example, right now I'm on 3, and if I use my movement and my other propeller at the same time, they'll both kick out because they get overstressed. But I can just about manage to use one at a time, so I think we might be able to land on this thing. Gotta say, this is such a sick build. Love it. So, we are now here. We'll turn off our power. Perfect. Great landing. And now, let's go and investigate what is happening down here. So, I guess there's no real better way than just to break into this thing. Let's go down here. Let's see. What have we got? Ooh, very cool. Obviously, some more loot chests, which we will always take. Glass is a bit of a strange texture today. Shulker box. Interesting. But looks like the most important stuff here is definitely a load of applied logistics things. Definitely pinch all of these things here. An ME chest, very cool. And some growth accelerators. Finally, that's going to be absolutely sick for some of our geos. There's a load of these not so mysterious cubes. I do wonder if there's an actual real mysterious cube. These are really cool decoration pieces. I'm looking for one. Oh, I reckon it'll be this one. Hold on, I reckon it's definitely this. Yeah, it is. Yes, right. Cool. So that will give us all of the applied energistics inscriber presses. And a little guidebook on applied logistics if you're not familiar with it. Oh, and we get a ton of fluix blocks as well. That's crazy. Oh, wow. There's a load of little other secrets here. I've just found a loot chest in the thruster. Very neat. Right, I would definitely recommend coming to this structure here. This is an absolute beast for materials. I'm starting to think that maybe because we got a load of this Certus quartz and applied logistics stuff. Oh, can we convert them? No, we can't. I'm wondering whether we get into this mod. Storage has been one of our major concerns at the moment, so I think it wouldn't be the worst idea. And landed. Brilliant. So let's get started with applied logistics. It would mean that all of our chest spam would actually be compacted down. And we can start with logistics on the island as well. Now, looking into the guide in the general storage section, there is a whole little bit over here about applied logistics, and one of the first things we have to make is a charger. Really simple, and luckily we can just place that on our already existing energy line just over here. And the first thing that we need to do is get ourselves Certus quartz, or at least a lot more. We've only got 8 over here. So it recommends that we purify budding black Certus quartz using dire goo. Now we could actually try that, although I think we only need to get the damaged budding quartz, and I think we can actually get that from just popping charged Certus quartz with a block anyway, so we kind of skip that step, although it would be good to get into the just dire things goo stuff. But for now, let's go with this method here. I'll set up my charger like so. We'll pop in one of those Certus quartzes. We'll take that back, we'll craft a block, and then I believe we have a little water pile over here, so I'll throw both of those guys in, and that will make us the damaged Certus quartz. Now I think what we can actually do is keep on making this a nicer quality one by throwing it in with more charged Certus quartz, and eventually we get it all the way to flawed, and we can't go any further. Flawless is the one that doesn't actually break or decay, but we're not able to go through that until we get to quite later on. So that's fine. For now, we'll just focus on getting that flawed one. That should hopefully be the last one. There we go. We've got the flawed budding crystal. I'm just going to punch my helicopter out of the way here because it's in the way of my crystals. And then I'll plop it down on this platform here. And I'm just going to remove that cobblestone for now. I think we can twerk grow it. I'm hoping we can. Yeah, we can. Cool. Now, it will slowly lose its charge. And for that, I have this tool here. This is actually the Fluix pickaxe. And we got this from the Geor's questline here. And it has at least Fortune 1. So that's really, really handy. So we'll try to get as much Certus quartz from this bud as possible. Awesome. We got quite a little bit there. We got 14 in total. Now, I think I might actually use something a little bit more efficient because I think we got those growth accelerators earlier on. We did. We only got the one. Eventually, we can actually make more, which is fine. But this time, I'm actually going to place it down here and I'm going to pop the growth accelerator on it to the side there. I actually want that rotated so that it's upwards like that. And then I can place this crystal resonance generator on top and that should hopefully grow this thing a little bit quicker. You can see there's like a little animated texture. And, yeah, we're already starting to get these buds. Now, obviously, Scrot Grow is going to be a little bit quicker than this. However, any kind of speed improvement is always welcome. And another mini tip here, you can actually throw your Certus Quartz block and 3 charged Certus Quartz at a time, and that will instantly turn into that floored budding. So you don't have to do all the steps one by one. Anyway, let me quickly stockpile a little bit more of this. Now, I have also just seen a wandering trader appear here, and he sells some more Skystone. I don't know whether we'll need lots of this, and I don't know whether we've already got a lot, because I know that we had, like, the smooth variant. I don't know whether that works in crafts, so I'll just pick up a little bit more. And I think we should probably get into the next little bits of applied energistics. I'm going to grab myself a load of these inscribers, and I'll check my chests again, because I did have... Oh, no, it's in my backpack. All of these presses here. And these are used to craft all of our processors here, such as logic ones, where we have to turn our gold ingots using that press into printed logic circuits, and then make our way over into the logic processors. And like I mentioned earlier, we got a load of quartz, so what I can do with this quartz is actually just turn it directly into silicon using our blasting setup over here. So I'll throw all of that in, and I'll set up all of these over here with their respective presses inside. So I'll craft a stack of printed silicon. I'll also get the the calculation ones on the go. I'll also grab a stack of logic and a stack of engineering. So hopefully once that's all done, we can start to make a real big dent in our ME system. I then spent the next sort of 10 minutes trying to gather as much AE2 materials as possible and forming all of our processors ready for us to begin. And for now, I'm going to start this system right over near our machines so I can have all of our storage nearby, and then eventually we can move out of this lawn base situation. So I'm going to start with the ME controller, and we can actually connect up things directly to the ME connector, either by using these glass cables like this, or if they sit on the side of a face, that will also connect them, and you'll see that by the device online thing up at the top. This is where we're placing our ME drive, and this is going to have all of our disks inside, and I also want to have a crafting terminal over here, and this will allow us to see what's inside our disks. Now, right now, I can't actually store or see anything inside because we've got no disks, so I am going to make a bunch. I've crafted up a load of 1K ME storage components because I'm going to craft up 10 of these 1K item storage cells. I'll plonk every single one inside this drive. That will fill up the entire drive here. And then I'm going to do something a little bit strange. I'm going to break our chests. And my magnet should be able to take everything with me. So, we're now going to slowly fly over, making sure we don't drop anything into the void, and dump everything from our chests directly into our system here. And I'll do the exact same with this chest. And do that. Oh goodness, my FPS, man. And let's see how many drives we filled up. We filled up 3, and by the looks of it, probably about half. And this has made our storage significantly more compact. Since we've now got our storage situation sorted, I'm going around all of these chests here and just taking all of the clusters and trying to bulk blast them all up. This should hopefully allow us to get a load of materials ready for crafting and building, etc. That makes our lives a lot easier. Okay, I've given myself a little timer. It's day 41 right now. I want to start making our new boat by day 50, meaning that we will finally clear out the lawn base once and for all. The problem is that I still want to progress in the time before that, and so I'm looking at the getting started questline, and our next objective is the Nether. Now, we've already unlocked blaze powder, however there is this little gateway pearl that we can craft, and supposedly this will give us a nice amount of loot as well as some drops from blazes. Plus we get nether fortress loot and some netherite scrap, which I think is going to be really useful, so I'm definitely going to be crafting this. We did also get a skeleton skull already, so I think it should be a good little fight on our hands. We do need some obsidian first though. And for that, I'm going to quickly craft up a basic fluid tank and fill it up here with a load of the lava from our singularity tank. Because if I go back to my ship, there was some powdered snow on the floor, and if I place a jar on top of it and then place my lava in, I can mix this to make obsidian. Now, does this auto output into a chest? That's the question, because it's been dropping it on the ground, and I don't really like that. Okay, nice, it does. That is really cool. So, I want to grab another jar automator, pop that on top of our jar just there. I'll grab a fluid tank and place that there, and then I will pipe out of this so that it goes straight into this jar, and we're mixing up a load of obsidian. So then we can craft up that stable ender pearl, and then lastly, that hellish fortress pearl. Now, before I do this, I also want to grab ourselves some blaze burners. That just uses netherrack and iron plates. We've got a load of those. Oops, I crafted a bit too many. But I can right-click a blaze and store it inside the blaze burner, and I think that might count as killing it. So I do want to try that. But let's just check if we can get some upgrades before. I can get an armor jetpack using bronze, a block of steel, and some diamond dust. We can afford this. So that is our jetpack all upgraded now. And I'm going to grab the osmium paxel here. That will do a lot more damage than all of the other paxels. And we've got quite a bit of osmium, so I think that should be okay to craft. So say goodbye to the iron paxel and hello to osmium. Right, let's summon this in and let's give this a go. I've got my jetpack on regular mode, and I guess we're going straight into a fight. Now, I think I can cheese most of this by just sitting on top of my helicopter here, because that gives me a little bit of a boost, and they also can't track their way up, so it's a little bit cheesy, but it will do. Moment of truth. Can we steal these blazes? We can. So we can make our blaze burners. Oh, what? Oh. So that doesn't work. Okay, that's a massive shame. I thought that would work. I thought I had a little glitch in the system, but unfortunately, no. But at least we got some blaze burners out of that. But I was still determined to try and defeat that gateway, and so I gave it another shot. The problem is, it didn't end up going particularly well. Oh, yeah, I think I might have overdone it this one. Little bit of a tough fight. Oh, no. It's all gone wrong. Well, on the positive side, I managed to grab a ton of netherite scrap and blaze rods here, and we've finally got some blaze burners, so not all was bad from all that. So let's go and explore the nether. I'm actually not too sure what it looks like. We need to get a blaze and steel. That's just blaze powder and a steel ingot. We've already got both of those, and then we obviously just need to light a portal. I will do it just over here, might as well. There we go. And we just light it like that, and hopefully this will be a pretty relatively normal nether. Oh. Maybe not. Oh, definitely maybe not. It's completely empty. Well, on the positive side of things, we have earned the mid-game shop, which could be quite cool, which is over here on the ship. What do we get access to from here? Ooh, we get the Wand of Symmetry. I am snagging that now. And a load of pretty interesting stuff. I'm sure we'll come back here because there's some really useful stuff in here. But for now, I will leave that and just head back home. So, what is next in the Getting Started questline? Well, the last part of this is to slay the Ender Dragon. And to do that, we're required to get 3 things here. The Division Sigil, I have seen this in the shop, so we might actually buy this. It's only 25. And that's required for us to get Endstone. Although saying that, I think there's probably better or other ways that we can do this as well. Yeah, like I'm looking at this. There's the Ars Nouveau method, which could be possible. And there's also the hostile neural networks. Now, we haven't actually got into this. And that does require us get Enderman, but that is more than possible. But let's focus on the Void Shimmer Goo to begin with. That should be, hopefully, quite easy because we first need to grab the Primo Gel. We've got almost everything for that. We just need to grab some sugar and a little bit of clay, which is fine. We'll just use some sand here, turn off my magnet, and that should produce us some clay when we wash it. That will give us the first tier, the Primo Gel Goo. We can then upgrade that into Blaze Bloom, but we need Nether Wart. Right, how do we get that? It's not too difficult. We just need to get a red mushroom and shoot it with the Atomic Reconstructor. But getting this mushroom seems to be a little bit difficult. It seems our best bet for the red mushroom would be the nature essence. Now, we need to grab a load of the Inferium stuff. So I've got a couple of Inferium seeds just over here with some growth accelerators, and hopefully that will speed things up, although saying that, it's going to be incredibly slow. So tell you what, I'll quickly make something in the meantime. If I grab myself a harvester pylon like this, I'll grab an oak chest as well, and then I need any kind of hoe. For now, I'll just chuck in a diamond one. I'm going to plonk that right in the middle of my farm here. It should be able to be waterlogged, so I'll place that down like there. I'll pop the work area on its maximum with the hoe in the middle, and then I can plop my chest on top, and hopefully, yeah, that'll start harvesting things automatically. Doesn't seem to do the sugarcane though, which is a bit of a shame, but that will be good for a little bit of Inferium essence. Now, I'm thinking about just flying around the nether because, unfortunately, I can't bring my helicopter through with me. There's no way to actually kind of pack it up and drop it off. And we could build 2 helicopters, but honestly, what's the point in that? We've already built 1. So I'm just going to fly, and I've had a little explore around the nether, and it is just as barren as the overworld. I've found 2 structures though. One is what seems to be a nether sky village, and then this looks like an arena. I wasn't sure what spawns here, and I didn't really want to find out, so I left there pretty quickly. But this might be interesting because it might already have our nether wart situation sorted. So we're coming up now, and in fact that is the first thing I've literally seen is nether wart. Great. Let's try and harvest a bunch of that and bring that back with us as well. And I wonder if there's some good loot here, or maybe even a blaze spawner. I can hear some crazy music going on. Ooh, there's a spawner here. It's a piglin spawner. That might be good. I need to probably grab something to help us out with that. Apologies for the noise right now, but right now we are precision sawmilling a bunch of sticks so that hopefully we can grab a little bit of this sawdust. This sawdust can be turned directly into cardboard boxes, and that's how we can actually move those spawners around. So let's craft up those cardboard boxes. I'll quickly do a /back, and then I can grab that spawner. Ooh, smithing template. Nice. Right, okay, cool. So that means we can now get some netherite armor and stuff. Very cool. I picked up a load of loot from those chests, and we got some really interesting gear. One of the best things I think we pulled was this Prudentium bow. It's got the ability of Endless Quiver, which I think acts like infinity, but we'll have to see. As well as this Ferrocore axe, which is quite nice. But anyway, what we mainly came here for was that nether wart, so we can finally make Blaze Bloom. Now, let's get it up to that next tier, which needs Sky Replica Ingots and Skulk Shriekers. Now, that one sounds a bit terrifying, so I'll start with the Sky Replica Ingots. Supposedly, there is a neat in-world transformation here that we can do. Very cool. So the way that we start this off is by getting ourselves the Skystone. Now, we've already got a little bit, so we actually skip one of the steps here, which is the mining it by placing an annihilation plane facing up at the build limit. Crazy. But luckily we've already got one, which means we can actually generate the dust using the Zycraft extractor. We just need water, lava, and then Skystone in the middle. And that will give us the Skystone dust, to which we can then smelt that into regular Skystone. So we'll try that. Skystone there, water, lava, extractor. I'll just stick my drawer on top, and there we go. As for the replica ingots, we can actually make the deep slate replica ore. The way that we do that is by getting a dripper and dripping that onto Kivy. We've obviously already got Kivy, but the polymorphic fluid is just blaze gold mixed with nether wart, and that gives us polymorphic catalyst. We throw that into water and that turns it into fluid. So I'll quickly grab up some of those. I'm going to place the Blaze Boom goo just here. We're going to right click it with wart and that will activate it. And then I'm going to place some blocks of iron here and then some blocks of gold on the other side of this. And that will spread the goo, producing ferrocore for the iron and then blaze gold for the gold blocks. Oh, there we go. Starting to turn. I'll grab all of that ferrocore. And then the blaze gold. We do have to smelt this up though, but that's fine. I'll chuck that into our smelting setup. And now we've got blaze gold ingots and ferrocore. So let's grab a little bit of that polymorphic catalyst. I'll quickly throw down a trough of water and we'll pop that in and grab a bucket of it. We'll grab some Kivy from up here, place that down, right click there, and that should drip this onto it, giving us the deep slate replica. Or I'm going to use that Fortune 1 pickaxe here. And that should hopefully give us a little bit extra. Nice. It might even be quite good to actually get into the replication mod. I've not had much experience with it. You can basically print resources based on their different attributes. If I hold shift over things, you'll see there's a little kind of earth attribute. And using those, you can actually melt them down and produce other resources. So that's 14 raw replica. I will smelt that up into the replica ingots. And supposedly, I can throw charged Certus Quartz, replica ingot, and Skystone into lava. And provided that I have my magnet turned off, that will give us these sky replica ingots. Like that. And this is what we need to actually craft the next tier of goo. So, before I build the ship, I do want to sort out our power situation because that's also going to be transferred directly to our ship. And right now, we are not generating very much electricity, only 78 FE per tick. It's barely enough to keep this whole thing afloat. So what other options do we actually have? If I have a look in the power generation quest line, I'm going to skip the early options. We're going to go for the mid-game, because this is probably where we are at the moment. And I've had a look through every single one of these options, and I'm leaning on 3. We've got the gas burning generator from Mechanism, which I think might be really good. If we use ethene, we can get 5k FE per tick, which is actually quite a nice one. I'll show that in a sec. We've got the fuel generator from Orotech, and this allows us to actually burn a load of different random fuels in order to generate loads of energy. And that might be quite a good one, but I think it will be quite involved. So I'm going to put that one on pause for now. And then the last one, this is relatively new for me. This is the thermo generator from Just I Things. In fact, actually, I don't think we can even make this, because that actually needs Shadow Pulse goo, which is the one after the goo that we're trying to actually make, so ignore that option. But this would actually generate energy when placed next to hot blocks, like magma or coal or whatever, and then you pump it a coolant. But I'm going to try out the Mechanism one. I think this will be quite a good option. Now, I mentioned earlier about ethene. Ethene is actually a really useful material that we can get quite easily by using a pressurized reaction chamber, putting water and hydrogen in it, and we've already got hydrogen generating over here. It's what we've been using for our jetpack. And then we just give it biofuel or biomass. And biofuel / biomass can be made from crushing up basically all plant matter. So all we need to do is make an automatic farm for a bunch of resources, and that would actually sort out that problem. And then we could actually generate ethene and get ourselves a load of energy. So I've got 3 days to do that before we need to start building our base. So I think it's time for a mini speed run. Right, let's begin. First things first, the 2 steel casings, they're easy, and the electrolytic separator, that should be okay. We'll crush all of that up and get that going. We then need to make pressure tubes from pneumatic craft. That's a little bit of a funky one. Not sure why this one's used instead of the other cables, but fair enough. Luckily, we can get compressed iron just by TNTing up a load of regular iron, and that should get us compressed iron. So that'll skip us having to get into pneumatic craft. I'll throw that on the ground and blow it up, and I think we're in claim chunks, so that shouldn't cause any problems. Perfect, and that's 48 of the iron. So we've got a load of pressure tubes there. And now we just need atomic alloy. Now I'm hoping that's not too difficult. We need reinforced alloy, that's just infused alloy mixed with diamonds to get that. And then we need the enriched obsidian stuff. And that's just obsidian dust mixed in with diamonds as well, and that will get us refined obsidian dust. Nice. Something I'm also going to do in the meantime, whilst that's all cooking up, is try to get myself a temporal pouch. We first need a load of raw gold, and we can turn that into blocks of raw gold. Eye of Ender should be easy, and then lastly a Nautilus shell, which is just prismarine essence and fish essence, both we get from the void fishing. And this is really useful. This is basically a bag of time. So whilst this is in our inventory, this will actually gain a load of seconds, and then we can actually deposit those seconds to speed up our contraptions. So I'm going to keep that in my inventory at all times, just so that this all gets sped up. So we've gained about 30 seconds there just by AFKing, and then I can just right click or shift right click, and it will actually double our speed here. And I can actually shift right click it multiple times if I had a load more time in my bag. So I'm using our infused alloy and some of our enriched diamond here to produce us the reinforced alloy. And I do want to keep half of the reinforced alloy, so I'm going to keep that there. I'll pop 16 in here, and then I believe just 4 of the refined obsidian. Although I think actually another 4. And that will give us the atomic alloy that we need. I'm just crafting a bulk of these materials because I'm sure we'll end up using quite a lot more in the future. So I've crafted up the pressurized reaction chamber, and then lastly that gas burning generator. So I'm just looking into a bunch of different ways of getting the biomass. I think one of the best things we could do is probably sugarcane. I did want to go with cactus, but I don't think there's actually a good way of getting cactus at the moment. And we could even use the nature essence. However, if you look at the nature agglomeration, it does require cactus to begin with. So it seems like sugarcane might be the best choice for this. Now, I do want to try and craft myself some snad. It's just 2 sand blocks together like that. And the cool part about snad is if I place it in a cross like this and pop a water bucket in the middle, sugarcane and other crops will grow a lot quicker on it. And the best part is that it will grow even quicker if I give this a redstone signal. So if I find myself the redstone clock over here, I can pop that on the side like that, and we should see it grow really quickly. Yeah, like that. So it's not super rapid, but it's going to be quick enough for most of our processing to occur. And we could even pop it on this side as well, and we'll end up with a load of growth ticks happening for sugarcane. After that, we need to get ourselves a breaker or a block breaker, or a way to kind of break these blocks. I'm not entirely sure. We've got a load of different options. I would like to go for the advanced block breaker, but we cannot afford that because we need to get to the next tier of goo. So there's this one from Irregular Implements. There's the Just Dire Things one, and then there's the Actually Additions one. You know what? I'm going to try this block here. I've never given it a go before, so let's try and craft up one of these guys. Supposedly, we can place it just on the side like that, and it will break those blocks. Although that didn't look very promising, did it? Ooh, maybe it's because it's in a claimed chunk. If I remove that, and then place the block back down again. Oh, it is. Right, interesting. So would that have worked? Oh, it does work. Okay, cool. So that does actually break the blocks. We just need to allow for fake players. Now, I think I can actually change this. I do need to go into cheat mode. Oh dear, hold on. And I think if I set in server settings to allow fake players like that, we can actually break blocks in our own claimed chunks. Now, I can also stick a chest behind this thing, and instead of spewing it out into the world, it will actually drop it into this chest. So I don't think I'm going to need much more than that. I can also stick on my muffling mod so I can actually muffle that sound. Oh, that's so much nicer. Now I'm going to do something fun here. I'm going to remove this chest and actually replace it with the crushing factory. Although, that's not going to work. That's a shame. I thought the items would go directly in there. Apparently not. That's okay. My next idea is to upgrade this chest to the sophisticated one, which it can still store items, cool, and add a hopper upgrade, then placing the crushing factory below like that, and now it will actually input those items. From here, that's going to go down into a pressurized reaction chamber just below. We'll pop that on input, and we will set the bottom to output and eject. And now all of our biofuel is in there. Now actually, I'm going to have to pull this back a little bit because we're running out of space. So tell you what, we'll pop the PRC instead over here. Have it outputting directly there and inputting items like biofuel on the right hand side. Perfect. I'll have the sink just here pumping into the bottom, and then I'll grab the electrolytic separator on this line, which should hopefully grab all of that water. Again, we'll dump excess on the oxygen, and now we need to pump the the hydrogen directly into the pressurized reaction chamber. So I will set the chemicals output 1 on that side, and when I give that power, we should see hydrogen in there. We should see this making the ethene and also substrate. Awesome. Right, ethene is exactly what we need, because I can then pump that up above. Chemicals will put output up top, and now we're doing the gas burning generator, and we're generating some serious energy here. And when this gets filled up even more, we're going to end up with even more energy as well. So technically, I could now completely detach it from this system, and it's now self-sufficient, and it will power itself. Now, I'm going to actually switch these both out with drawers, because they're only going to actually store one item, and instead of that hopper upgrade, I'm going to use the pusher upgrade, where we can right-click this to actually set it to push down to the bottom. And I'm going to add a void upgrade in here as well, so that if this ever goes above 2k, it will actually void the rest of those items. It's day 50. No more dilly-dallying. Let's make a proper void ship base. We're no longer going to have this sort of mock lawn base. This is terrible. Come on, let's actually sort this out once and for all. Now, because I don't know how big this build is going to be, I don't want to make the same mistake as I usually do and make a build that's too small. However, we could flip this on its head by making a modular build. That's kind of the idea I'm going to go for here. So what I'm going to do is almost make a big, long, sort of snaking tunnel. And these will actually be quite long, but they're going to be segments. So they're actually all individually going to be their own little mini ship. And after spending a while doing a little bit of testing and building, I finally came up with a design I was happy with. Okay, so I have now fully created one of these segments of this articulated build that I really want to go for. This is actually pretty massive, and I'm sure we can actually probably fit everything inside just one of the segments, but it would be cool to have a machines one, maybe like a farm one, and just kind of play around with that idea. So I do want to duplicate this section probably 3 times to start with, and then make some kind of thing for the head. And so the idea is to get this entire build selected with the copy and paste gadget from BuildingGadgets, and then paste it alongside. However, I am just going to quickly save this as a little template here, just in case, as a little backup in case anything goes wrong, or if we actually add stuff to the contraption that I want bringing over. And I'm going to position this so that there is actually a 3 block gap, 1, 2, 3, between the builds, and this will be where a spring lives. And so now that I've got that in place, I can hold G, have a look at my materials list, and we should be able to print this in. And so now that we've got all of the materials, I can hold G, check that that is all clear. And the fun part is it actually uses it all from your backpack as well. And now that is all done, I can just right click and it will begin to paste it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that is so cool. Oh, I'm so jealous of this. We don't have this normally in Create. Building Gadgets is insane. Perfect. And I think that is now done. So this is the build complete, the void ship. It's not fully complete. I do want to add some kind of trimmings on the edge, but for now, I am really happy with this. I might pizzazz this up a little bit in the thumbnail, but let me go and take a look what I've done inside. So I've only used this front little pod here for everything right now. However, we do have a ton of space to expand. The top floor, I've moved all of my machinery. I've also added a netherite furnace. I upgraded the obsidian one. And I've added a factory augment, which makes it very similar to the mechanism ones where we do multiple recipes at a time. So let's say I've got some quartz here. I can just throw it in this chest, and I've got it so that it is inputting and auto-inputting from the left chest and outputting to the right, which has been really good. And this is really quick. On the other side, we've got our E-theme production as well as our fan setup for haunting, blasting, and washing. And on this side, I've actually got a massive jumbo tank. It's just an upgraded version of our singularity tank, which can hold 1,024 buckets. That is crazy. And I've got this all going into the jars over here and then outputting directly into that tank. If I come downstairs quickly, you'll see I'm actually pulling out all of that lava and we're fueling up our new foundry, and I use those glass blocks here. They look so cool for underlighting. And I've got another pipe coming up into blaze burners, which are powering a steam engine, which I'm using to grab a load of SU for our create machinery just over here, which I'm sure we'll expand on as well. I've also got my extractors here and my new resin setup. If I've got an extractor with a log and some leaves into a drying basin, that will produce us blocks of resin, and I can compact these down, or sorry, uncompact them into resin balls, and these act like slime balls. I haven't covered the drying basin, but the drying basin is really easy. It's just some logs, black dye, and an iron ingot, and then we're using an item pipe to pull out the bioresin itself. I've got a couple of steam engines. Now, the recipe for steam engines has actually changed here. We use blaze gold, overcharged iron wire, which is why I've made an energizer off camera, and we've just been zapping some iron wire to get that, and a precision mechanism. So this is actually really expensive, and it still generates the same 16k SU. Not entirely sure why it's so difficult, but oh well, we've got 3 of them here producing quite a lot of SU. I've also popped my Aero scoop over here, and I think, in fact, yeah, it's probably just got full. I've actually put my Aero scoop on a windmill bearing because this works instead of moving the contraption, which is actually really neat. So I've been getting loads of string via this method, and right now that's really all I care about. I've been binning off all the dust and everything else. I just want the string. Now, that mechanical crafting setup you might have seen earlier might look a little bit confusing because I did say earlier I was going to use the drive-by wire stuff, and I do just want to show this off. Unfortunately, when you break it, it doesn't drop the item. So I don't really know whether I can use this in survival. It's a little bit funky and clunky. I can't even wrench it either, and when I broke it, it just breaks. So I kind of have to spawn one in again. But I think it would actually be better for me to use a linked typewriter here, which is the vanilla Create Aeronautics way, which I think works even better. Now, right now, this is not actually a simulated ship. This is still just in the world, and I want it to go forward and left and right. Problem is we don't really have a way to do that because it's just a big sausage right now. But I have invested in a couple of thrusters from Propulsion Simulated because I think this might be the best way to actually fly around. Now, you can use loads of different fuel sources. However, I know that lava also works, which is why I've expanded my lava farm by so much. And I'll quickly demo how these work. I've got my lava fluid pipe here. I can stick that on like so, and then I can give it a redstone signal, and that will shoot out thrust. Right now, that's only 600 newtons of thrust, and it uses 1 millibucket per tick, which I think we can still support. However, that is too slow. I want it faster. So what I can actually do is make a multi-block 2x2 thruster here. But I'm sure this will use a lot more lava, but as you can see, this produces a huge amount of thrust. We're getting 6,000 newtons of thrust, which I think should be enough to move our big sausage ship. So I'm going to try to come up with a thruster design so that I can stick one on the left and one on the right over here so that we can actually get this thing to move forward. 2 things I've also done is move our helicopter up here. I've actually used a docking connector, and if you have 2 of these docking connectors, I've got one just down here that's also on. I don't know if you can see the redstone signal just down there. And that allows you to connect these structures together. So that's basically now welded to our contraption when we actually simulate this. And then if I want to disconnect it, I can literally just use that lever, and then it will disconnect and undock from our ship. Secondly, I was being a bit of an egg earlier. I found out about the oak water strainer, or any kind of water strainer. You basically just throw that in a water block and waterlog it, and you'll get a load of new resources here. And one of the ones that I was trying to look for was nature essence. So this would have been super important, and I totally just completely forgot about this, but that is really useful for getting items like pumpkins, even cactus, which is one of the things I was trying to look for earlier. So definitely try and get your hands on the water strainer as soon as possible. Or even getting some of the rarer stuff like kelp, which I've been using for some of our create stuff when we turn it into dried kelp. As for the thrusters, I have finally finished with a design that I'm somewhat happy with. They're still looking a little bit goofy, but that will do for me. I'm still using just the 2x2 one, but if I go down into the bottom layer, you can see that we've got access to our thrusters here. The problem is this is quite a tight gap and I can't actually fit through. So if I go upstairs, I've been charging a personal shrinking device. Super easy recipe, but what that allows us to do is actually set a size and shrink ourselves down by using shift right click. So now I'm really tiny and I can actually fit through that gap here. Now I'm going to hook up our lava line to both of our thrusters on both sides, and then we can actually hook up the redstone. So let me quickly go inside and I'll unshrink myself. I actually want 2 redstone links on the thrusters, one of which is going to be a lever signal, and that will be our go forward signal. I need to shift right click that to make sure it's on receive mode. The next one I'm going to have as lever and then item pipe, and right now I am on the right thruster, so that will actually be the left turning here. I'm going to grab my typewriter, I'm going to bind this one to W and this one to A. I'll head over to the other thruster and do the exact same with lever, and this time lever and fluid pipe, binding this one to D. So I'm going to quickly come upstairs, I'm going to place my typewriter down. If I press W, both thrusters should now be activated, although I think I forgot to put this one on receive mode. Okay, all fixed. There we go. So both of those thrusters are now working, and then if I press A, only the right thruster should go, and then D, only the left thruster should go. So we now have full control of our ship. We obviously can't go backwards though, but that shouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I'm actually quite excited to see this thing fully simulated. It's finally time to get this thing built. I have moved away our original build, and I'm actually just now dismantling the lawn base. Okay, that is now fully dismantled. Now I just need to glue the entire contraption together. I then tried to assemble every single part individually, and it just all sort of snapped off. And it just broke off its springs. That's not great. Remember to always take backups, kids. Yeah, so that one didn't go as well as I thought. I've actually restored from a backup here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to connect these islands, because these springs are obviously separated. If I connect every single segment like this for now, obviously we'll fix this in a second. I just want to make sure that it all glues together and then builds together, and then we can snap off these segments and actually make them articulate. So we now have every single compartment honey glued up, and their edges are overlapping here. So hopefully when I actually go to physics assembler this will all come in one piece. But we'll have to find out. I'll grab my physics assembler, place it down, connect it. Maybe that worked? That definitely worked. Okay. This thing is actually flying now. This is sick. Okay, right. Second thing is trying to detach these things to make them fully articulated. So that's the next part. Right, let's give this a go. Snap that off. And I think that is disconnected. I can't fully tell. Oh, it is. It is. A little bit bouncy, but that did work. And the springs are still intact. That is very cool. We'll do the exact same over here as well. It definitely takes a little while for the physics to actually enact, but that is fine. There we go. That one's also done. Now, I don't know whether you can tell. We are still on the wonk. So, I am going to go back to spawn. You know what? I'm going to skip this little fella over here. I'm going to buy one of these skybound anchors. We might need one for every segment of the ship, but for now, I'm just going to buy the one and see how that works. I'm going to do a /home. Oh yeah, I was a bit worried that my home doesn't exist anymore because we've actually moved it. But hopefully, when I place this thing down, I'll try to place it right in the center point just here. When I place that down, it should even out the pitch and yaw of our ship, and that looks like it's done it. I am still thinking that I might need to do this for the other ones though as well. However, we're now level. Oh, that's so neat. You know what? Just to make sure that that is all neat and working as intended, I'm going to add the skybound anchor to every single segment as well. So you know what? I think we need to give this thing a little whirl. I'm going to quickly craft up a velocity sensor. because I want to see how fast this thing actually moves. I'm going to place it right above where our typewriter is. And now, moment of truth, let's see the sausage finally move. I'm going to F5 here, and I'm actually going to scroll out into contraption view. If I press W, thrusters move, the articulation happens, and we are moving forward. We are moving forward at a rate of 3 meters per second. So incredibly slow. Right, let's test this out with a turning function as well, and see if the articulation works as well. This is so cool. It's working. It's definitely not the fastest thing. I want to up the thrusting power, but this is so cool. The sausage finally moves. I'm even testing out the turning, and this is working a treat as well. We're doing a full loop here. This is... I'm honestly gobsmacked. You know what? For the culture, I have to test out the 3x3 thruster. It's only right. It's only right. This is going to absolutely eviscerate our lava supply, but we have to do it. Let's give this a go. This is the 3x3 thrusters. Oh, the springs snapped. No. Okay, well, I've got a solution for this. I am going to craft the physics staff from Gadgets and Gizmos here. Now, to get this, we've already got the wrench, we've already got the honey glue, we just need slime balls. Unfortunately, we can't use our resin balls, and so I found this recipe here where we can actually inject biomass directly into clay to get slime balls. And we've got a load of biomass already being produced from our biofuel over here, so I can just pop all of that in the infusing factory and grab ourselves slime balls this way. And then that is our physics staff sorted. We do need to power this thing, and for that I'm going to need to grab a back tank, specifically the copper back tank. The way that we power this should actually be relatively simple. I just need to place the back tank like so, with a shaft up in the top, and that will start storing a little bit of energy. Unfortunately, that's really slow at that RPM. So instead, I'll just go down to our downstairs one, which is running at max RPM, and that should charge it in no time at all. Perfect, that is now done. I'll switch that out with my jetpack, and now if I right-click, I can now grab my contraption. I'm using my scroll wheel to slowly bring it back, because I don't want the other spring snapping off. So, just need it a little closer, and then we'll be sorted. And one more. No, maybe another one more. Perfect. Right, I think that should be close enough to do it again. Though I do need to push this back just a little bit, so we've got some space between them. And I'm going to now probably triple up on the springs. We definitely need a lot more springs if we're doing this. Okay, triple the springs. Let's try it one more time now, and hopefully we've fixed the main issue of the spring torsion. Oh, that's perfect. That's literally perfect. Right, let's have a look. What's the speed that we're getting? 11 meters per second. That is so much faster. Check out the distance we've already got from our boat over there. Let's just test out turning as well. That's even faster. Oh, this is so cool, man. Even though it looks like a sausage, I think it's redeemed itself pretty darn well. So now that we are fully moving and set up in our new base, I want to continue on with the current quest line. And to do that, we need to get the Skulk Shrieker, which I mentioned before requires us to do this gateway pearl. So that's 3 different ingredients that we're going to need to get access to. Number 1 is the nether star, so we're going to have to do a little bit of hunting in the nether for some wither skeleton skulls. Secondly, we need to get into the power mod to be able to get these blazing crystals. And then lastly, we need to get into actually additions to sort the empowered void crystals out. Now, it's probably best if we start off with the blazing crystal, and that involves us having to get into power. And on top of that, we'll probably get into auto crafting, because things become a little bit easier if we start auto crafting these recipes. And before I do that, I need to set up a little farm. So I'm going to come down into the second pod here, and we're going to reset up that harvester pylon farm that I made a little bit earlier. So what I'm going to do is place the chest above it like so, and I've got 2 stack upgrades. That means that I can actually store a larger amount of one item in those slots. So one slot is actually able to store 4,000 items, which is really nice. I'll pop some growth accelerators like this, and then resonance generators on top, and that should power them so that when I place some seeds in like so, although I do think there needs to be some light here. There we go. I can now place them in there, and that should hopefully grow really quickly, and we'll get a load of Inferium or whatever seed we place there. Now, we can actually speed that up even more by placing down red fertilizer. Really simple recipe. And again, we're getting the red dye from our beetroots that we made earlier. And now when I place that down, it should grow even quicker. Yeah, check that out. That's so quick. That's literally rapid. So I actually want to set up a couple of mystical agriculture farms. And to make the seeds for mystical agriculture, we need to make ourselves an infusion altar and then 8 of these infusion pedestals. And for now, I'm going to pop that over here. And you'll see when I place that altar, oh my goodness, This is going to be a bit trippy. I can imagine this is glitched because we're on a contraption. Okay, well that's the layout that you want, just a ring around. I don't know what was happening with that GUI then for a second. And then I want to pop a lever on the side and we'll be using that in just a second. Anyway, what seeds do I actually want to get? The first one I want is a Certus Quartz seed. The main reason is because we can actually skip all that flawed and the budding Certus Quartz stuff if we just make the seed. And to do that, we need to get Tertium Essence, which we need Prudentium Essence, and we get that from our regular Inferium Essence. So, I'm going to craft ourselves the basic Infusion Crystal. We'll set up ourselves some Prudentium. Now, this basic crystal only has 1,000 uses, but eventually we can actually craft the better one using Supremium Essence, this Master Infusion one, and that doesn't have a single bit of durability. That will just be infinite. But right now, we don't really have enough for that. So, I'll grab my Prudentium Essence, and then that is my Tertium Essence sorted. We then need 4 bits of quartz and a Prosperity Shard, or Prosperity Seed Base, and that's a little bit funky. Supposedly, we can just give this a seed and some Prosperity Shards in a tempered jar, and that should be okay. I've actually never seen that recipe before, so I'm going to test that out just over here. Seed, and then, oh cool, okay, very nice. And then once we've got that seed base, we just need to plonk that in the middle. Pop our 4 essences in the altar, it doesn't matter where they're placed, and then the quartz, and then finally give it a redstone signal, and that will produce us the Certus Quartz seed. Perfect. Right, so I'm going to plonk that down here and replace one of our beetroots. And again, I forgot, I need to pop down the red fertilizer to make this grow even quicker. I'm also going to do the Fluix seeds as well. That's just Fluix crystals and Imperium essence, which is just 1 above tertium, and so we now have all of that. And then we'll also sort out this one as well. That should give us a good boost and a head start on sorting out our Certus Quartz and Fluix dust, so we can actually get on with more applied logistics. So to start with auto crafting, I'm going to use this section just over here. I'm going to pull out a line of cable, and we're going to start with a molecular assembler and a pattern provider. Now the molecular assembler is the thing that does the crafting. The pattern provider is where we place all of our patterns to actually craft up. And to set up patterns, we actually need to grab a pattern terminal. The pattern encoding terminal here. There we go. That's the pattern encoding terminal. And I'll plop that on the back side here. And we place blank patterns, this is how you make them, in this slot here. Now, as is tradition, the first pattern that you encode should be a pattern for patterns. The way that you do that is just by pressing a recipe here, pressing encode pattern, and that will make a pattern for that craft. I also want to make recipes for the crafting table here, and I'm going to pop that on substitutions enabled, because I don't just want to use spruce planks, I want to use kind of any plank we can. So I'll encode that. I'll encode the molecular assembler, the pattern provider as well, and then the formation core and the annihilation core. And I'll pop all of those guys down here in the pattern provider. So let's try and request ourselves some molecular assemblers. We do still need a crafting CPU. You see here it says no crafting CPUs are available. Now I happened to see in the mid-game shop they sell processors, and I think they even sell the crafting storage. So I'm actually going to buy these ones just because it'll be a little bit easier. And for now, I am going to buy 2 crafting processors and 2 16K storages. And what I'm going to do is place a co-processing unit with a crafting storage like that. And then I'm also going to make a separate CPU so we can actually have 2 tasks running at once, which will be really good when we're trying to do some multi-crafting operations. Also, yes, I have unsimulated my build. Unfortunately, I was having some really weird issues when unloading. Sometimes I get crashes. So I've had to just keep this thing unsimulated, and then I'll simulate it when we're trying to move it. And so far, that's been a pretty good fix for the problems that I've had. So now when I go to craft my molecular assemblers, all of the resources are ready to do that, and then I can press start. And then if I come back down, it might finish too quickly, but you'll see all of these recipes here are actually crafting. I think for a split second you might have seen that, but it's already finished up, and now all 3 of my molecular assemblers are now sorted. We can try 3 of the pattern providers as well. Oh, this time I will actually try to catch it, and yeah, you can see them being crafted up there. You saw 2. And so what I'm going to do here is actually expand on our pattern provider. I am going to make another molecular assembler on the side, and that way this pattern provider can actually use all the molecular assemblers around it. And then I'm going to place another one here, and then another one here, and another one here, as well as assemblers over here. So that way, all of these pattern providers actually get access to as many as 3 molecular assemblers. So let's get into power. I am going to grab the starter energizing rod, and we also need to grab the energizing orb here. Now I'm going to make a lot of these actual crafting recipes here by encoding them, because we will definitely be using a lot of this stuff. So I'm in my crafting terminal now, and if I have a look at the energizing orb, despite the fact that I don't have the energizing orb itself on autocraft, everything else is, and when I hover over here, I can actually control click, and it will craft those other items that are needed. So that way you can see here, it's filtered. Oh, that was so cool. In fact, that's quite a new thing. I've never actually seen that animation before. But yeah, it populated all of those items in here so I can actually take back that energizing orb. Now I do want to add the basic capacitor. I'll also add redstone blocks. I want to encode everything that we need for that starter rod. And let's craft, hopefully we can grab 4 of them. Nice. Okay, cool. And we can actually encode the next level up from that, the energizing rod basic. I'm going to pop them all back in there. Pop my new crafting pattern in here. And hopefully we should be able to request that basic one. Awesome. Let's turn all 4 of them into the basic version. So to grab blazing crystals, we now just need to pop the energizing orb with 4 blaze powder, and that will craft up our first blazing crystal. So the way that I'm going to automate this is by coming out over here, and we'll pop all of our energizing rods like that, connected up to the cable for our energy. I'll pop a pattern provider down there and then an energizing orb on top. And then I'm just going to connect it up via cable to this, which should be connected to our network. So let's encode the energizing recipe here. Now this is not regular crafting, this is actually going to be a processing recipe. So when I hit encode over here, it will appear in the processing patterns. That will be fine. It just has a little bit of a different texture when you look at the pattern itself. But I can drag that all the way over here and pop that in. Now the pattern provider will still see this as an inventory. However, I tend to like to point this to the correct inventory, otherwise it sees all the inventories around it. That wouldn't be a problem now, but if I had a chest over here and didn't actually have a direction set, it would output things and split them between these two, and obviously this one wouldn't craft because it's just a chest. So I tend to just like to do that anyway. So let's request a blazing crystal, and we should see it is currently powering that up. We get the blazing crystal, and then we obviously need to get that to go back into the pattern provider to finish off that craft. To do that, I am going to grab a item pipe, point from there to there, and we're going to use a wrench, and that should have finished our processing recipe. I should see it no longer in our crafting status, and it is now in our system. I'm not sure if something changed or I've sort of Mandela affected myself, but you no longer have to whitelist pipes. They will now just pull out the correct outputted material, which has just made this so much neater and just a load easier. Now do be careful, if you're requesting multiple blazing crystals, the recipe won't work. And that's because it requires specifically 4 blaze powder, any more and it will just refuse to craft. And so you have to set the pattern provider to lock crafting until the primary result is returned. That means that it will do these crafts one by one instead of trying to dump everything in there at once. So I've cancelled that recipe, and now if I request 2 more, it will do them one at a time. So right now it's doing that 4 blaze powder. Once that's done, it will pop the item in here, and then it will do the next one. I'm also going to add a pipe upgrade here so we can actually speed up the taking out of the item. And we've now got the blazing crystals that we need. Currently I'm crafting up a bunch of display stands and an empowerer from Actually Additions. Most of this wasn't difficult. A lot of the Actually Additions recipes though require things like this redstonia crystal. And that is literally just when you throw redstone into the atomic reconstructor. There's also the Inori crystal, which is just iron thrown in. So none of the recipes are particularly difficult. You do need this aesthetic green quartz, and that's if you throw chiseled quartz blocks in, and then the aesthetic quartz is just regular quartz blocks. So nothing difficult, just long-winded. Also, I'm noticing my base is becoming a bit of a slime farm now that we've unsimulated it. So the empowered void crystal, well, we need to use this recipe here. However, there's actually an easier one. If we make the block, it's a little bit cheaper. We use the exact same materials, but we get a block of it. So I'll do this, and then we can chop down that block into the void crystals that we need. Now, off the top of my head, I believe the empowerer goes here, and then all the display stands go 2 blocks either side of it, like that. And then we just need to power them. So I'm going to quickly link this cable. This will be a temporary setup because I don't imagine us using this for that long. Great. Then we place all of our items in the display stands. And then in the middle goes a void crystal block. And I'm going to guess that's just coal. Yeah, coal thrown directly into a reconstructor. So I'll grab this block of coal, chuck that in. Now that's the void crystal block, and then we throw that in the middle, and that will empower it into the empowered void crystal block. Oh, and now that it's an unsimulated build, I can actually use my temporal pouch. It wasn't working before, but now it is. Oh, that's so good. Interesting. For some reason, my recipe with the block wasn't working, but that is fine because the original recipe does work, as in the singular one. So I'm just going to use hoppers here to pipe in all of those items that we need over here, And then I'll grab this and throw in our void crystals. Okay, weird. For some reason, the black dye doesn't want to go in as well. This is really strange. Look, I'm putting them in the hopper. It isn't working, but everything else is. I'm very confused. Oh, it's because of the redstone torch. Right, there we go. Ignore me. That was not strange. That was just me being an egg. Right, let's pull all of these guys out and grab all of the empowered stuff that we need. Perfect. So now comes the last bit, which is the trickiest. The nether stars. So I'll need to do two things. Number one, kill a load of wither skeletons to get some skulls, and then we need to kill the wither, both of which require us to get a way better weapon, because right now we're just using this boring osmium paxel and it only does 14 damage. So what options do we have? Well, one of my favourites that I've recently seen being used is the matter cannon. This is a little bit of a funky one. It's from Applied Logistics, and we will charge it up in our cube here. And the way that this works is you basically feed it a bunch of projectiles. So I'm going to connect up my ME chest to this network, and I'm actually going to place my matter cannon in here. And we can fire a bunch of different projectiles. One thing I do want to try is lead nuggets. If I throw all of these lead nuggets in here and take out my matter cannon, I've also got this target dummy. If I place this down, it should show me how much damage we do. 16.5 or 11.2 around here. That is really good. Bearing in mind we can just hold right click and just hit with crazy DPS from a distance. I'm loving that. However, I do think there's a better nugget, and I do want to try this. I want to try out uranium nuggets. I think these do a lot more damage. The problem is we don't have access to uranium. Seems to be a bit of a strange one. You don't really use the regular methods to get it. However, once we get one, we can actually make a uranium geode or a uranium seed. So all we need is 4 ingots. And one of the ways that I've seen you can do it is through the lens of the miner. If we just place some stone, it can shoot a stone block with the lens of the miner and turn it into a uranium block. Now there's a load of different things it could also turn it into, and a lot of the other ones are higher weighted than what we've got, but I think this will be the only way we can really get it right now. So I'll grab a load of stone, pop that in front and grab myself a stone button, and then we can shoot it and we should get some of the random ores spawning in. And hopefully at least one of these will give us what we need. Yes! Okay, brilliant. That took a long while, but we've managed to get ourselves the 4 uranium that we need. I will smelt that all up, as well as our other raw materials as well. There we go. Uranium seeds are being crafted up as we speak. And then once we've done that, I can just drop them in the farm down here. Now the question is, how much damage do these guys do? Let's pop in our matter cannon again, and I will take out those lead nuggets. I'll then drop in the uranium ones, and let's see. Does this do more damage? 12. So honestly, not much of a DPS improvement. To make sure this thing is constantly powered, I'm going to see if the pocket generator from Just Dire Things works. If we right click, we can place an item in here like that, and it will generate forge energy. If I take out my matter cannon, it does look like it's charging up via the pocket generator, so that might actually be quite good. Now before I go and take out a load of wither skeletons, I've crafted a load of stuff from hostile neural networks. Basically, the way this mod works is you can kill a bunch of mobs and learn them in a model framework. Once you've killed enough, you can start to simulate their loot, meaning we can get more drops of wither skeleton skulls without having to actually kill any. So what I'm going to do is take a trip now over to the nether, to a blaze fortress, and then find one of these wither skeleton skulls. Or find one of these wither skeletons. Perfect. I'm going to pop it in the deep learner. And then I'm going to pop this in a curio slot. So now whenever we kill a wither skeleton, it will start to train this model. So here's one right here. I will quickly shoot it with the matter cannon. And then you can see it's trained it, so we've only got 5 remaining until we get to the next tier of model. Whilst I'm here, I'm also going to grab a blaze model and train up that one as well, so we can get even more loot from them. What the heck was that noise? Oh, it's a quantum goat. I then spent a few minutes killing every wither skeleton and blaze on site and training up both of those models. Okay, the last wither skeleton until I've reached the superior model, and I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm going to head back. So I'm going to quickly show off the simulation chamber and the loot fabricator because these are really useful. I'm going to grab my model over here, and I can pop this in inference mode or training mode. The training mode produces no outputs, but it collects more data, and the inference mode Doesn't gain any data, but it will start to produce the simulations that we need. So I want it in inference mode. I've also grabbed these prediction matrices, or matrices. This is just clay, gold, and iron, and some glass panes, and you pop them in this slot here, and that will start to produce you some wither predictions. Now, right now, our model accuracy is 65% because we're in superior, and the more data that we actually collect, the higher percentage chance that we'll actually get the prediction of the correct mob. Once this reaches 100%, we will actually have a chance of getting that wither skeleton prediction, and always we will get a generalized prediction of what kind of type this mob is. So this is a nether type mob, and so we'll always get that generalized nether prediction. Now, I want these wither skeleton predictions, so I'm going to take them, pop them in the loot fabricator, and pop them in. And now we can actually select what loot we want from those wither skeleton predictions. So obviously in this case, we want wither skeleton heads. That will then complete, and we'll grab the skulls. Mate, you are bothering me. Go away. Now that we've got these, we can actually summon in the wither. So, day 81, it's finally come down to fighting the wither. I want to try to fight the wither at least once legitimately, so what I'm going to do is actually claim this entire area here so he can't break any blocks, or at least I hope he doesn't break any blocks. And we'll summon him directly on my roof. Now, we've obviously got our jetpack, so we should be able to grab a little bit of distance. I'm not sure if that matter cannon's going to work at close range though, so that might be a little bit of a strange one. We'll find out. So, moment of truth. Let's summon this guy in. And I also want to grab a model framework and pop that in my deep learner quickly. Pop that on my back. Run away. And now let's fight this guy. Oh, we're making quick work of this. But now he's in his second phase and we do damage him through that, which is nice. And boom. Finished. Perfect. I then fought it 6 more times to try and get the basic tier of that wither model. Boom. Right, that is the last one. Let me try and grab that star. Perfect. So that is a model trained up, and we've got 6 whole nether stars. It's finally time to try and get ourselves those skulk shriekers. This does look like it's going to be relatively easy, minus that last wave against the warden. So I'm a little bit scared of that one. However, I think we can make this fight a little bit easier for us. The first thing I can do is give myself the advanced feeding upgrade. If I place that in my backpack and pop that to allow and set it to baked potatoes, I can put my baked potatoes in my backpack and it will naturally eat them. I also think a armor upgrade is in order because right now I'm just using kind of hand-me-downs. I think I'm going to go with the refined obsidian set, although I will keep my jetpack on. The way that we get that is just from placing any kind of helmet in there, like an iron helmet, and then pouring refined obsidian ingots all over it. And we've already got some refined obsidian dust. I just need to smelt that up into its ingot form, and then we can just pour that all over. So let's try that. I've melted it all up. I think I just place it in the casting table and pour it over. No, maybe it's this one here. That looked a little bit better. Yeah, okay, that's how we're crafting it. So yeah, just place your leggings or whatever in there and just pour the molten obsidian over it. And that is all of our armor. Now, it needs enchants, so I'm going to go and do that as well. We could do some higher level enchants, but I think for now I'm just going to keep it as the regular level 30 enchantments. But I've also got a grindstone here just in case we get some really bad ones. Ooh, protection 3. Oh, what a bit of armor. That is nice. Feather falling and unbreaking as well. Another protection 3, and then projectile protection. I think that should be good for our armor. And I'll also set up a maximum size beacon here as well, hopefully with a bit of regeneration on it, and that should also help out with our health situation. So let's whack that in. We'll pop on regeneration, although actually, tell you what, I'm going to do something a little bit strange here. I'm actually going to extend this beacon and make it even, because I remember there was a vanilla trick where you can get 4 beacons at once on the top here, so that we can have even more effects. So I'll pop this one on here. Let's go with strength 2. That sounds good. I'll grab another one here with resistance 2. And then I'll probably have jump boost 2, just so we can kind of escape and evade danger a little bit easier. And that should be all good to go for this fight. Okay, moment of truth. Let's grab this gateway pearl and place it up at the top of this beacon. Okay, right. Here we go. I'm going to skip through the first few waves of this fight because it was relatively easy. However, for some reason, our matter cannon doesn't work when we're close to the gateway. I had a theory that it's probably to do with the gateway's hitbox or something. So a lot of this gateway, we mostly used our pack sword to fight the enemies. Okay, wave 5. This is the warden. This is probably where things go south. I'm going to try and lure him out of the hitbox so I can hit him with the matter cannon. Here he is. And would you look at that? The matter cannon was not working, so we had to fight this thing with the Paxel yet again. Despite being quite afraid of this, we actually did so much damage. We're doing it, we're doing it, we're doing it. Nice! Oh my goodness, we did it. Calm, calm, relax. So that now gives us Void Shimmer Goo. Oh my goodness me. We're actually so close to slaying the Ender Dragon. So I'll go and buy ourselves that Division Sigil from this shop here. It's only 25 coins, that should be okay. And we're using this to craft up unstable ingots so that we can craft up the Lapis Calestis. And that will give us endstone when we use Void Shimmer Goo with it. Now we also need demon ingots, and supposedly, if I have a look here, it says we can get them by throwing blaze gold into lava whilst in the nether. So I've made a little lava pool right next to me over here in the nether. And apparently if I throw this in, I'll get demon ingots? Yep, that's awesome. We do get demon ingots. Perfect. Interesting. Right, so we have to actually activate the Division Sigil, and we do a little activation ritual here where we have an enchanting table and a bunch of redstone, then surround it with a load of grass or dirt, and then at midnight, we can kill any mob within 10 blocks, and it will activate the sigil. Okay, luckily it's getting dark now, and unfortunately some mobs have spawned on here, including some creepers. Nice. But supposedly I place an enchanting table just in the center here, then surround it with redstone, and I've got a mob in a creature catcher. This is the creature catcher here, blaze gold and an ender pearl, and I managed to get myself a little slime captured in here, and I'm not entirely sure when this is supposed to activate. I'm a little bit concerned. I extended that platform by one more, and now when I shift right click, it has no longer got that weird dirt message, so I think it's ready. We just need to wait for the time. Oh, hold on. It's ready? Do I shift? Oh, it already did it. I killed a zombie just on here. I didn't expect that to actually do that. Okay. Well, it looks like it's ready to craft. Oh, I'm a bit upset that I missed that on camera. I'm just going to break this cursed earth because I believe it summons a bunch of mobs. And I've crafted these coloured bricks here. That's just regular bricks, light grey dye, and then a paintbrush. Really, really simple. So we're ready to now start this. Now, the reason I've been putting this off is because the unstable ingots actually explode within 10 seconds of when you craft it. So these are actually really quite risky, and that's why I'm definitely doing this on camera with no distractions over here. Right, moment of truth. Pop that in, breathe out. Done. Okay, slightly stressful. Now, how much of this do we actually need? We need 10, so I have to do this a few more times. I don't know whether my heart can take this. And so, after 2 more, we then had enough to actually make all the endstone we needed. Oh, my left click didn't work that time again. Oh, nice. Okay, right, we've got 12 of them in total. So you know what, let's try and convert a bunch of this Calestis material into the endstone. And what else do we need for this? We need an end rod and an evil tear. An evil tear, that's pretty easy. We've already got the drops of evil from the wither skeletons. And Celestigem we can now get with the goo that we've just got. As for the end rod, now that's going to be a bit... We've already got blaze, but popped chorus fruit, that's a little bit of a wacky one. Oh no, okay, well, we can do this recipe here, just requiring a generalized ender prediction and an apple. Earlier on, I managed to get myself, I don't know, maybe it's still in here. Ah, yeah, perfect. The Enderman data model. I went over to one of the nether villages and just killed a bunch of Endermen. Got it up to superior tier. And now, if I plonk that in here instead of our wither one, and then obviously feed it with a bunch of prediction matrices, like so, we should get some generalized ender predictions once this finishes. I'm going to use some of this time pouch as well. Perfect, right. And then I just combine that with an apple. That's a chorus fruit. We pop that in our furnace. Now it's popped. And then we craft an end rod. I'll pick up all of our endstone here and craft up that evil tear as well. The Celestigem is quite interesting. That is just a diamond block that's been converted over by the Void Shimmer Goo. So we'll do this one. Perfect, that's all of the Celestigem that we need. And so we make ourselves the last item, the evil tear. And that unlocks us the DIY Ender Portal. Now, I thought I'd make the fight a little bit more momentous by doing it on day 100. So for the next 15 days, I wanted to fix up our base and improve all of our resource production. In the meantime, I do want to craft up something. I want to craft myself 2 more unstable ingots and craft a hoe. Now, this will be a little bit of a challenge, but we can do it. Perfect. Now this is the reversing hoe, which when used on blocks will reverse or de-age them. And the same with crops, but I think maybe if I stick this in the harvester, it might act as an unlimited harvesting tool. I'm not entirely sure. Let's just see. Oh, okay, yeah, it is harvesting, and if I look in here, there is no durability. So the reversing hoe does act as an infinite tool in our harvester pylon. I've also expanded the mystical ag section a little bit more, adding a couple more seeds here, like glowstone, redstone, nature seeds. All of these are passively generating, and I've added even more growth accelerators to speed this up as fast as we can get it. The harvester speed is definitely the bottleneck here, though. You'll see that it doesn't harvest the plants instantly as soon as they're fully grown, and it takes a little while. So I think we could later on improve this, maybe adding multiple harvesters or trying a different method altogether. So maybe instead of resource generation, we could actually try to get our ship to be even faster. Obviously, we were doing about 11 meters per second. Let's try and go a little bit quicker. And one of the best improvements I reckon we could do is actually move this over to using ion thrusters. Now, this is a hefty automation, which I think would be perfect to try and finish off. So I'm going to encode all of the things that I can actually encode from this now. The most involved part will probably end up being the precision mechanism and also these obsidian plates. They're a little bit messy. We have to use the recipe sequence to actually get this working, or we can cast it using productive metalworks. But if we're trying to get these in bulk and quickly, I reckon the recipe sequence might actually be quicker. So I will do this one. We've also obviously got that precision mechanism here, and this one is notoriously nasty, so hopefully we can figure out some good ways to do this. Now I did notice in most of these recipes we're required to use plates, and so I'm wondering if there is a better way or a better automatic way that we can get plates. As of right now, we could use an osmium compressor, but that requires us needing oxygen. Although we are generating oxygen. Yeah, you know what? We will go with that osmium compressor because I think that'll actually just be quicker overall. So I will quickly craft up this. We're also going to turn that into the basic factory. Hopefully upgrade it to the advanced one. And can we go any further? No, we need more reinforced alloy. That should be okay for now though. I am going to hook that up directly over to this electrolytic separator. Plonking that down just there. And we'll set it to output chemicals. And we're going to output 2 to the compressing factory. So there we go. We've now got oxygen in here. I'm going to dig down below and try to hook this up into our applied logistics. So the way I'm going to do that is grab myself a pattern provider, like so. We'll plonk it underneath, and I'm going to also wrench this guy so that it is facing upwards, like that. And then we can encode any of these patterns here. So brass to brass plates. We'll do copper plates as well. Gold plates, and then lastly we'll also do iron plates. And if I chuck them all in here, setting the compressing factory to auto sort, and then what we should be able to do is actually set input and output on the bottom and auto eject. And if I hook this up directly to our connector through our pattern providers over here, and I'll tell you what, this cable management is just getting absolutely hectic. Not the best, but oh well. We should now be able to see all the recipes for plates, and if I request a stack of these iron plates, they instantly go in here. This no longer has power, so I need to quickly drop a cable there. And then once that's done, it will output into the pattern provider, and we'll now get them in our system. Awesome. And I'll give that a muffling upgrade to shut it up. Something that I should have done absolutely ages ago is actually remove this drawer and replace it with a compacting drawer. The compacting drawer is really neat because if I pop something in this bottom slot, it will show me all of the compacted variants going from 1 compressed to 2 compressed. Now this comes in handy when you've got something like iron nuggets. You can place it in there and you get ingots and the more compact version, which is the blocks. But obviously right now we're doing that for cobblestone, and this is really useful because I can just dump that in here and the cobblestone generator will output in here, giving us the double compressor that I can just pull out and use. So for the precision mechanism itself, I need to have a few things on autocraft. I need nuggets on autocraft, cogwheels, and large cogwheels. Nuggets is really simple. We'll just encode that. As for the cogs, I need to encode shafts, then the small cogwheel, then the large cogwheel. I'll probably also need to encode planks as well. So let's get our mechanism machine all sorted. What I want to do is have a belt running from here to here, like that. I then want 3 deployers all facing down like this, and I want them to turn into each other so there's a big shaft running through that we can just power this all from. I'll place a barrel on this side and a barrel on this side, and I'm actually going to shrink this belt by 1 using a wrench. I'll place 3 bolts like so. Actually, ignore me. We need to extend these by 1 and move the barrels back like that. That looks a little bit better. Then we're going to have an andesite funnel pointing out of that vault, and then a brass funnel pointing in, and then 2 andesite funnels touching the barrels, and that will be the start, and that will be the end over here. Now I'll set up the deployers. We'll pop the small cog, large cog, and then the iron nugget here. And I just want to test something real quick. I'm going to use a barrel temporary for this. I'm going to use item pipes from the pipes mod and pump out of this barrel. And I'm hoping that when I place, let's say, iron nuggets, they will go straight into this deployer rather than the other one, which they did. Okay, now for the small cogs. Once the barrel finished, it did empty it into the right place, so that's quite a good sign. And then the large cogwheels should also go in there. Right, okay, that looks good. So in that case, what I'm actually going to do is remove this barrel, and we're going to replace it with an ME interface from Applied Logistics. And that will go there instead. And then I need to somehow hook this up to the back over here. Shouldn't be too difficult. I have a really disgusting looking wire going all the way back around here. And then we'll hook that up into the interface. And what the ME interface will do is I can actually request certain items and they will appear in these slots. So let's say I happen to know that there's cobblestone in my system. If I drag it into this slot, it will now populate here with an actual item from our system. I can also set it to stock a certain amount, so we've now got 64 cobble, and it will always keep 64 cobble in that slot there. So what I want to do is pop all the cogs in, the large cogs and then the iron nuggets, and we'll set all of these to 64. Now the problem is, right now we don't have any in our system, and so I am going to use a crafting card. If I place that in this slot, it will try to send out requests to craft these materials here. So right now it's crafted up a bunch of iron nuggets for us. It's now crafting up the cogwheels as well. And then once that's finished, it will also try to craft up these large cogwheels. So now we're populating our system with this. So I'll wrench that interface and then I'll pop the pipe upgrade in there. And we should see all of these deployers populate with their respective items, which they just have done. So I've hooked that all up with stress. And so now when I place a gold plate in here, I've got to be careful. I need to quickly pinch this incomplete mechanism and filter this brass funnel so that it only takes in those incomplete mechanisms, so that once it finishes that process, it will not pass that filter, it'll go straight into the funnel and then out into our barrel. Perfect. Now, there is only an 80% chance that that does actually work, and so what I'm going to do when I set up this recipe is something a little bit interesting. I'm going to come back around here and break this and set up a pattern provider so that it goes directly into this barrel here. I'm going to move around my cabling so that this still connects, and then I'm going to grab this barrel, come out with some cabling just over here. I've got to obviously be a bit careful here. It doesn't link with all the other cables. And then we will pull out of this barrel just there. So that means that whatever output goes from this barrel, it will always end up going into that pattern provider, finishing off the craft that we've just done. So I'm going to set up the precision mechanism now. All I need is actually for the gold plate to equal a precision mechanism, but I'm going to change the rates. We're going to do 5 gold plates should equal 10 precision mechanisms. Now, this actually has an 80% chance. Right now, we're treating it as if it's a 50% chance, but that's just for reliability. Obviously, there is a chance that this could all just fail, but I prefer to lower the chances so that we can just make this as reliable as possible. I will then pop it in this pattern provider round back like that. And hopefully, I can just go and request those. Let's find out. Let's request, for now, 20 of them. That should be pretty good. It's crafting all of those up. They should hopefully be going into that barrel when it's done. Yeah, I can see them now. And then they're getting put directly into our pattern provider, finishing off that craft. And I think that's just completed. Right. No, not completely. Oh, hold on. All right, I think I know what I did. I think I had this the other way around. Ah, I did. Right, it's actually supposed to be the exact other way around. Let me quickly clear that pattern. It's supposed to be 5 to 10. So 10 gold plates is 5 precision mechanisms. That's a little bit better. I can pop that in there and hopefully that will now be corrected. So let's go and craft a whole bulk. Let's go for 64. That will really test the system, but I think that should just work absolutely fine. Now that did work, but the problem is that requesting them in that size backed up a load of incomplete mechanisms into our system, because if they can't go through this line, they will just automatically funnel into here. We could prevent that by having a list filter and denying incomplete mechanisms. But for now, I'm just going to take these out of our system and manually fix them. As for our sheet setup, I'm going to do the same with 2 presses here and a spout. I'll spin these ones as well, so we've got the stress on this side. I'll pop a shaft connection over here so that now everything is powered. Now, luckily, this one should be a little bit more simple. What I'm going to do is pop a pattern provider just here. Although I actually think I'm going to end up with even more spaghetti cable in. Yeah, this is absolutely chaotic. Would not recommend. Actually put some proper effort into cable management. But for now, that works. I'll wrench this so that it is pointing upwards. I'll pipe the lava directly into our spout over here. Pop in 2 funnels on the barrel. And then I'm going to run a line from over here directly to our pattern provider. And yeah, this is really ugly. Unfortunately, I've only got 9 days to completely finish this off. So I'm in a little bit of a crunch time right now before we fight the dragon. But that should be okay. I now need to set up a recipe for it. And that recipe will just be obsidian dust. I'm going to remove the lava because that's already getting inputted. So it'll be obsidian dust to obsidian plate. Plop in that in our pattern provider. And I'm just going to dump a bunch of obsidian dust into our system. We should now be able to request 128 obsidian plates. So let's see. They seem to be coming in. Let me quickly go and check downstairs just to make sure that this is all working fine. Yep, seems to be working well. They are coming in slowly but surely. So I think we're good to go to try and craft 2 sets of 27. That's 3 by 3 by 3. So when I press start there, we have all the materials. It should start crafting every single little bit. I think we obviously need a little bit more of these obsidian sheets first. But everything there seems like it should be crafting, which is really nice. Yep, we are on to the final 11 pieces. Right now we're just being bottlenecked by that obsidian plate, but that is so worth it. I just saw it. We finished our thrusters. Oh, that's sick. 54 whole ion thrusters. Moment of truth. Let's go and set these up and see how fast our build can get. Okay, so let's remove all of these thrusters. It did just reset all the redstone links though. That's all good. We'll set this up as a 3 by 3 thruster. That looks pretty darn mighty. Connecting that this time with cables, as these ion thrusters just use electricity, which is so much neater than lava. And again, we will have lever, and I think this one was fluid pipe. I've assembled my ship. Now, I did have a little bit of a problem with, I think it was my harvester. My harvester actually kind of assembled as a separate entity, stuck in the middle, which caused the entire ship to get stuck on this one block. It was such a nightmare trying to find it. However, we did find it. I've removed it for now, because I don't entirely know what was going on there. Now, I've also added rope between the connections here, because rope, surprisingly, is a little bit stronger than the springs, and it doesn't snap off. So that was a lot stronger, and I would definitely recommend using rope instead of the springs. I mean, you can use both, that's what I've done here, but that has definitely helped us out. But you are interested in what speeds we're going, so let's try and see how fast we can go. I've got it running at probably its maximum speed, and we are running at 23 meters per second. That is insane. It also makes an absolute racket, but check this thing out. The sausage is insanely cool. Turning works a treat as well. You know what? Let's go all the way back to our starter island and see how long it takes. Bringing our entire base with us. This is so cool, man. I honestly can't believe that Aeronautics is now in modded Minecraft. Something that's quite fun is that because this is all being powered via redstone links, I'm actually going to place a redstone link here to that same forward signal here, the double lever, and place an analog lever, and we can actually strengthen this up slowly so we can go at even slower speeds. So now we're only going at 4 meters per second, and we can crank it all the way back up to its original 15, which will take us back to that 23 meters per second. And I don't even have to pilot the thing. I can just walk around the ship and it's gonna keep moving. Oh my god, there's our old ship. Look how quick we're going. Bye. See you later. Oh my goodness. Right, hold on. Let's turn this thing down. I mean, just holding M and looking at the map, we're going so quick. I don't even know whether we can render chunks that quickly. But I'm going to slowly try to make my way all the way back to the beginner island here. We should be approaching the island anytime soon. There it is. Right, let's park this thing right next door to it. I'm also going to position myself to be south-facing, because that's where I was originally facing. Oh, my goodness, we've just crashed into the island. Just because when I disassemble the ship, I want it to all be at the same direction that it was already facing. Certain machines, like mechanism machines, pipes, etc., they all want a specific direction. And I think that's probably as good as we'll get it in terms of parking. I'm pretty happy with that. At this point, I decided that I was going to pizzazz up the build a little bit more before we fought the Ender Dragon, because I was not exactly happy with how sausage-like this looked. So I've done a little bit of pizzazzing up. I added some wings to the side, and I'm almost going to call this thing like a void worm. Just the way that it articulates. It looks so sick. Very, very, very happy with it, and I definitely like the little wing decorations that I added. I added some small ones and some bigger ones, and kind of kept that symmetry going. So we've now got a completed void worm. Now you might notice all of my levels are gone. I wonder why. Well, turns out if you have the thruster on and you walk in front of it, you take so much damage that you basically almost instantly die. It literally bypassed all of my armor. So yeah, just watch out for that. But I didn't realize the 3x3 thrusters only take about 1080 FE per tick. That's a huge amount of thrust that we're getting for really, really small amounts of power. And just to quickly show you how much power this gas burning generator actually generates, I'm going to pop an energy cube just here, so we can see the gas burner going at full speed. Yeah, you'll see it's producing 8.19 killer FE per tick. So technically, we could have another 6 more of those thrusters on our void worm. Although that would be absolute chaos. But anyway, it is day 97. I think we should go and fight the Ender Dragon. Now, the fight is a little bit different. And I haven't really prepared for it, but I do know that it is different because if I go into the quest book, it calls it the Savage Ender Dragon. So I'm interested in what's in store for this fight. I don't think we need to do much gear upgrades. However, I do want to take out all of our lead nuggets and actually replace them with the uranium ones. Even if it's significantly more expensive, it will give us a lot more damage, and we'll definitely need that for the fight that we're about to have. So in the quest book, in this DIY end portal, the second page shows us what structure we need to make this end portal. So it's just a 3x3 of end stone, surrounded by obsidian. I'm just adding some girders for the look. Plus also, if we actually simulate this build, we do want this to move with us. Right, that's looking good. And then I think it's either 3 or 4 blocks above. We need to have the end stone and then an end rod like that. And we'll remove that. I'm also going to girder these guys down and actually connect them to the portal for aesthetic, but also for functionality. Although actually, we could probably have popped that on the ceiling. Actually, I've completely messed this up. I need to move it back by a block. Luckily, I can craft the cut and paste gadget from BuildingGadgets and just select this entire area. And then cut it and hopefully just paste it one back. Oh, I love this. That made it so much easier. And now I can make it all aesthetic and hooked up directly to the roof. And now, final moment, I'm going to stand here and I'm going to right-click the evil tier onto that end rod. Okay, some particle effects. Whoa, okay. Okay, that is sick. I haven't seen that before. I think we're ready to fight the Ender Dragon. Okay, let's do this. Jumping in now. And we've spawned in the end. I want to quickly go onto the Ultimine and pop that on escape tunnel so we can quickly get out of here. And I don't know whether this music's part of the dragon or whether there's a... This surely is not part of the Ender Dragon fight. Oh my goodness. Come on, mate. Completely ruining the vibe, man. Thank you. Right. Anyway, this Ender Dragon fight looks to be pretty normal so far, and I haven't actually seen the Ender Dragon, though. Has he just not spawned in? We've got the health bar, I haven't seen him yet. Okay, well, in the meantime, I will start smashing up these. Oh my goodness. Here's the phantoms. Oh, here's the dragon. Oh my goodness, he was just sleeping. Right, I will quickly just use my matter cannon. The matter cannon obliterates these guys. It's actually ridiculous how strong this thing is. We'll take out... Oh my goodness, it even takes it out through the iron bars as well. That's crazy. And then that is the last one of them. Oh my goodness. The amount of phantoms that have spawned in. This is crazy. Let's see. The matter cannon does shoot the Ender Dragon, which is good. And we're doing a lot of damage. I'm hoping there's no crazy abilities. Well, I don't know. I'm interested if there is. Whoa. Okay. That was cool. I'm going to keep my distance from whatever the heck was going on there. I'll just keep shooting this fella. You're being affected by the dragon's flight magic. Ground yourself or face its consequences. What? Okay. So we can't fly anymore? I'm a bit confused. I mean, I'm going to just fly anyway and see what happens. I want to find out the consequences. Hopefully it's not instant death. Oh, same thing again. I do want to find out what actually happens, though. Oh! Okay, that's what happens. Is it just blindness? Yeah, it is just blindness. Okay, he's on half health. We've done pretty good so far. Has he just regenerated one of these beacons? That's crazy. Oh, quickly. Oh, wait, is the lightning expanding its radius? It is! Oh my goodness, right, okay, so we've now got to get inside the ring. I've got to say, this fight is very, very cool. Oh, he's coming down to land. I'm going to quickly squeeze behind him and try and get him in with the melee hits as well. See if we can finish him off this way. Last hit! There we go! Oh my goodness! I got yoinked. Well, that is the Ender Dragon fight completed. He did try to regen another one of those Ender Crystals right at the last minute, but luckily we killed him just in time. And that should be a load of experience as well. Fantastic. And then finally our reward, I think I might be able to just shoot the Dragon Egg. Yep, perfect. We now have our very own Dragon Egg. What a sick fight, man. That was really good. So that's the last quest here unlocked. And I will say, it's not actually the last quest. This is just the getting started quest. It took us 100 days to complete the getting started quest line. Do you want to know what the actual end game of this pack is? It's the Pina Colada. You have to get to the end of so many different mods here. And most of the mods we haven't actually touched in this Let's Play. In fact, I genuinely don't think we can actually complete any single one of the prerequisites for Pina Colada. That's how long this thing takes. For the last day, day 99, I want to quickly explore the end a little bit for two things. Number one, a little trophy, i.e. the dragon head over here. I think that'd be very cool. And then number two is obviously the elytra as well. And I think I'll pop both of these trophies right next to the cockpit. So as the sun sets on our final day, I just want to say a big thank you if you've made it this far into the video. I've got to say I really enjoyed my experience with this pack. The FTB team have outdone themselves yet again. And Aeronautics definitely adds a lot of twists and quite a lot of interesting ways to solve problems, like my helicopter over here. And also, this has been a bit of an experiment on the channel. I've never made an 100 days video before. I tend to stick with Let's Plays, but this has been quite an experience. In total, on the world, we have spent, if I go down to time played, we spent 0.89 days. That's 21 whole hours of recording just for this one video. So if you have enjoyed this, please make sure to head down there, give me a comment, and make sure you like the video as well. So let's sleep through our final night. And now, day 100. So the answer to the question, can you survive 100 days in FTB Skies 2 Aero on a void ship? The answer is yes.